Do we have any individuals from Somalia in the group? Please raise your hand. That's for Minnesota. That's called the Great Big Minnesota Scam with one of the dumbest governors ever in history.
I'm a knucklehead at times.
I love this Ilhan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, with the little turban. I love her. She comes in, does nothing but bitch. She's always complaining.
Bingo.
She comes from a country where, it's considered about the worst country in the world, right? And she's always complaining about, the Constitution allows me to do this. We ought to get her the hell out. She married her brother in order to get in, right? She married her brother.
How dare you?
I feel very sorry for President Trump. Constantly so hateful and puts so much vitriol, name calling, and really tells lies about people in order to try to get his way or win some kind of fight. And I think that's exactly what's wrong in America today.
Shut up, bitch!
In this world, there's two kinds of people, my friend. Those with loaded guns and those who dig. Broadcasting from a Montana wilderness fortress at the headwaters of the Missouri, this is Matt Christiansen Live.
Hello and welcome to the show. This is Matt Christiansen Live, a proud duct tape production for Wednesday, December 10th, 2025. Thank you for tuning in. Sitting shotgun tonight is our friend Skulldugger. Welcome back.
Saddle up, partner.
Hello. Sorry about the late start. As always, everything depends on a series of buttons pressed in proper sequence, and I pressed some of the buttons in the improper sequence. So I'm sure some of you have already declared me late and gay, and I am guilty as charged. I apologize for that.
Duct tape all over the place? It's a disgrace.
We do our best around here. The duct tape rolls on. And I'm already offering excuses. Happy birthday to my middle son, Hayden, who turns 2 years old today. My excuse is there were a lot of birthday festivities today. For that reason and some other factors, I reserve the right to be unprepared and unprofessional, as though I am ever anything but. But anyway, thank you for being here, Skulldugger. In the news for our discussion tonight, the Fed cuts interest rates another quarter point. So that is the third time in 4 months. Now at the lowest point since 2022. Are we going to get boom time? Are we going to get more inflation? We'll discuss. Trump is also refocusing on the economy. He did a campaign-style speech in Pennsylvania yesterday. Was that last night or yes? I can't remember what time of the day it was, but yesterday. And also, not just talking about the economy, but calling for the deportation of Ilhan Omar over her alleged marriage fraud. I don't know how much you've looked into that. We'll review the case a little bit. I'm not going to go into every detail because people have talked about it. It's not really alleged. I mean, she did. Have you looked into the details before?
Yeah, back when they were previously reported. I mean, that's an old story. Like how it hasn't had any real resolution by now is shocking.
Well, that's the thing. Trump's calling for it. Tom Homan saying we're going to look into it. Okay. It's this and the feeding our future fraud with her.
Yeah.
These are
she's
not
nothing but fraud.
When has she lived a non-fraudulent day in her life? These are cases that don't require a lot of investigation. They're pretty much there. It's a question of do you have the courage to go after it or not. So while I appreciate the stand-up comedy-like bit about it, and I find it entertaining, are we serious about this or are we not? And I hope that we are. But we'll take a look at the case once again. Marjorie Taylor Green, still in Congress for another month or so, or I guess just a few weeks at this point. Yep. It seems that she's auditioning for CNN personality at this point. I've really tried to give Marjorie Taylor Green the benefit of the doubt because I appreciate her voting record in Congress at least. This latest appearance on CNN, I don't know what exactly is going on here. We'll check in with that. Speaking of congressional clown shows, Jasmine Crockett running for Texas Senate now. So That to me is going to be the show of 2026, not just because she's going to say all sorts of ridiculous things, but I really consider this to be a gauge of where Republicans stand. Because if this goes as planned and she just beclowns herself, well, it's entertaining. But if she's right, and I don't think she's right, but let's say she managed to win Texas, Republican Party's dead. That's it. It's an obituary at that point if Jasmine Crockett actually succeeds. So that to me is going to be the show of 2026 to watch. Jasmine Crockett running for Senate in Texas. Can't wait. Also, I know you were looking at it earlier today. January 6th pipe bomber guy, Brian Cole, Brony. Not a furry, Brony. Different things.
Yeah.
So, and apparently bronies are more degenerate than, not that I didn't have questions about bronyism before, but I didn't realize, well, let's just say you sent me some of the artwork from Brian Cole's brony art profile.
Yes.
I do have questions about what sort of jollies these guys are getting out of these cartoon horses. But in the second hour, we'll take your calls, voicemails, and emails. If you'd like to call the show live, you can do that through the Discord server linked in the description. There are instructions and help available on the server for you. There is still time to leave a voicemail or a text message tonight if you'd like. You can do that in the next hour. Number is in the description. We'll catch up with your super chats as well. Thanks to those of you who support the show. We got to say hello to our friendly listener-owned business of the night, and that is our friends over at Western Razor Company. We know we're being lied to on a daily basis by our government, by corporate media, and by razor companies too. Think about it. Their ads used to appeal to your masculinity. Then they took advantage of your sensitivity with aloe strips. They kept adding blades, thinking you wouldn't notice how clogged they get. And the more they changed, the more plastic and disposable they became. The honest truth is those other razor brands are lying to your face. And our friends at Western Razor aren't going to take it anymore. That's why their safety razors are 100% metal, made in the USA, and made with integrity. The replacement blades are inexpensive as well, so you get a great shave and you save money long term, because when you buy a Western Razor once, it lasts forever. Listeners can get 10% off anything from our friends at Western Razor using promo code MATT10 at checkout. Don't let those other razor brands lie to your face. Go to westernrazor.com. Order yours today. Western Razor, the last razor you'll ever need. Promo code MATT10. One. Oh, you got one?
I bought one, yeah. I got the case, the wooden case from Kineo Wood. So
doubling up. So what is your unbiased review?
I absolutely love it. I wish I had made the switch to the safety razor a lot sooner. It is the best shave I've ever had.
Well, you still have a very nice beard though. So I guess trimming around the edges, or have you shaved it all off with a Western Razor?
No, I've never gone clean. Not with the Western Razor. I've had a beard the entire time.
Bit aside, the more blades scam is a scam. Like 5 blades, 6 blades, 1 million blades. It's all bullshit. You need one nice and clean one in a safety razor. But yeah. Anyway, go to westernrazor.com if you would like to find out for yourself. Promo code MATT10. Find all the information at mattchristiansenmedia.com/deals. Deals by listeners for listeners. A little bit of housekeeping. This will be the last Wednesday show, or not this will. Next week will be the last Wednesday show of 2025. That will be the 17th. The following Wednesdays are Christmas Eve and New Year's Eve. And of course,
ain't nobody got time for that.
We are not going to be streaming that night. Hope you're enjoying those days and nights with your families. Wednesday show will return as usual on Wednesday, January 7th. Right now, I expect Sunday streams to go on uninterrupted. 21st, 28th, whatever they are in January. I expect to be here every Sunday. But as always, if you can't find the show, just head on over to my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com. I'll post the latest information there if there is some sort of unexpected absence from the stream. All right. Into the actual news. As I mentioned, the big economic news of the day is really what was totally expected, and that is Fed Chair Jerome Powell announced another quarter-point interest rate cut down to a target range of 3.5% to 3.75%. And that is now the lowest federal funds rate since November 2022. Now, in practical terms, that means the cost of borrowing is going to go down from credit cards, car loans, home loans, whatever loans. You should see interest rate declines in the near future. Mortgage rates are a little bit more complicated. You're not necessarily going to see an immediate drop there, but the cost of borrowing will decline according to this rate cut. Now, in theory, that means more money for investment, more potential job opportunities for employers who have money now more freely available. But the balancing act, if we grant the premise that the Fed should be engaging in such a balancing act, is that more money freed up can mean more inflation. Increased buying power can translate to higher prices, which is the thing we've been fighting for half a decade now since COVID. So the Fed is aiming to build or maintain a strong economy with minimal inflation, of course. Inflation does remain sticky, though. Of course, the Fed's target rate is 2%. And we had the Biden spike up over 9% in the middle of 2022. This is measured monthly year on year. And then it dropped down to 3 when Biden came into office in January, and we had a nice little dip over the summer down closer to that 2% target, and we're now right back up at that 3. So inflation, of course, is not at the disastrous levels that it was under Biden, but it remains sticky under Trump. And the thing you have to remember, of course, is that it's cumulative. So this giant spike under Biden is still getting compounded year on year. Like a 1% difference at 3% relative to the target rate of 2 doesn't sound like a lot until these things start compounding every year. And suddenly that's why you have a lot of goods like groceries, something like 30 to 40% more expensive than when we were buying them 5 years ago. So that, Skulldugger, is why the Fed was divided on this rate cut. And there's a 12-member board that makes these decisions. 9 voted in favor of the rate cut, but that is the first time since 2019 that 3 members have dissented at a single meeting. So we've got some division in the Federal Reserve here. It's possible that the big question now is, what are they going to do in 2025? Is there going to be a return to a higher interest rate? Are we just going to stay flat? Are there going to be additional cuts? That's kind of where the division seems to be in the philosophy of those who are great financial overlords who have so much more wisdom on these issues than we do. But what do you think? Are you optimistically greeting this news? Are we worried about more inflation? How should we interpret the rate cut?
So you're always going to worry about inflation when the jobs picture is what it is. Like there's still the jobs market is not really fixing itself. So that's actually why that's why the Fed was split, is cutting the rate without the jobs numbers improving isn't going to do anything to mitigate inflation. So you're still going to be in the same inflationary picture and you're not necessarily going to have more dollars floating around in the economy because people are still holding on to them because of the work situation's not great and inflation is still high. It's still making things more expensive.
Yeah. Is it fair to say your characterization there is even if the risk of borrowing is lower, there is still always inherent risk in borrowing? People may not take that risk if they're not confident. Is that another way of saying it? Or
well,
not?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, people are still going to be really selective with how their dollars get spent, and if they don't have the extra money above their basic necessities, they're not going to be borrowing more.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Obviously, Trump is generally he's been ripping Jerome Powell for not lowering the rate, or at least not taking every opportunity to lower the rate. So Trump apparently is in support of this move, although I haven't heard what he's had to say about this rate cut today specifically, if he had any commentary on it. But Trump is apparently refocusing on the economy, which is good. He was elected, I would say, primarily on 3 issues. You got the border, You got inflation in the economy, and you have ending at least our entanglement with foreign wars, if not ending those wars entirely. And I would say that the border performance, while imperfect and still having questions, is probably the best performance. Mixed record on some of the other things. Would you consider that to be a fair assessment?
Well, yeah, I mean, we're looking at military engagement in Venezuela, which is, I don't think anybody had that on the bingo card. So,
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the Venezuela stuff goes. I know those that are a little more worried about the drug boat engagements than I am view it as a stepping stone to direct engagement with Venezuela, which, of course, if we start doing the regime change bit, I think that's a bigger problem. But
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, war in Ukraine continues. You've got the relative peace in the Middle East compared to what it was. But yeah, and there were other things that other international conflicts Trump has helped to resolve. Whatever that thing in Cambodia was, got to remember that one. I can't remember. Isn't there always like some kind of genocide in Cambodia? Not right now. There's not. Anyway. If you want to win American and conservative enthusiasm in 2026 for the midterms, and if you just want the health of the country more than political opportunity, economic recovery is a huge piece, of course. So Trump is focusing there. I think that's politically wise. I think that's wise for the health of the country. But he's returning to the hoax playbook, the hoax branding, if you will. And this time it's that the word affordability or the so-called affordability crisis is a hoax. And listening in context to what Trump said at Mount Pocono in Pennsylvania, I understand what he means. He's not saying that it's a hoax insofar as goods are not expensive or the cost of living is not expensive. He's saying, look at who's responsible for it. It's Joe Biden and the Democrats, so they didn't care about it for 4 years. And now I'm in office, and all of a sudden affordability is the biggest issue. That's the hoax, the idea that Donald Trump is primarily or uniquely responsible for the affordability issues. So I get what he means, but the message does require some careful clarification. Otherwise, it sounds out of touch, which is why Trump was kind of clarifying himself during the speech that he gave. So Trump is at Mount Pocono, Pennsylvania, gives the speech under the theme lower prices, bigger paychecks, and he's explaining what he calls the affordability hoax, or maybe not a hoax.
They gave you high prices. They gave you the highest inflation in history, and we're bringing those prices down rapidly. Lower prices, bigger paychecks. You're getting lower prices, bigger paychecks. We're getting inflation. We're crushing it. And you're getting much higher wages. I mean, the only thing that's really going up big, it's called the stock market and your 401ks. They have a new word. They always have a hoax. The new word is affordability. This election is all about affordability. Biden price increases and Trump price increases. Look at Biden. Up 37, 24%, 22, 21, 30.7. Trump. The price is down 5.1, 4.2. It's a hoax. Remember they said the Inflation Reduction Act. Remember that? Billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. After they got the thing passed, then they said, we agree. It has nothing to do with inflation. Screw you. We don't care. That's what it is. We're dealing with bad people. And the word affordability is the exact same thing. And I can't say affordability hoax because I agree the prices were too high. So I can't go to hoax because they'll misconstrue that.
It's a hoax. I need to pull that one for the soundboard. Actually, that was my every year I try to be a little creative with my pumpkins, although pumpkin carving and Halloween. The last couple of years I've been a little bit lazy because, demands of parenthood and stuff. But that was my 2020 pumpkin outside our house. It's a hoax. I had a pumpkin that said that because I wanted everybody to come to our house to apply that to COVID. And even at the time, yes, I know the virus itself is not or maybe the virus itself was a hoax. I don't know. But the point was that the reaction to it is hoaxy. It is overblown. Yeah. It is fake. The intent is to spread paranoia, to get people to submit to all sorts of nonsense. That was the hoax. It's kind of what Trump is saying there. But still, the message is a little confused, I think. I think it needs a little refining.
Yeah.
Even though I agree that Democrats are primarily responsible for the affordability issues that we're seeing. I just think that it's a hoax language applied to people having the experiences they are at the grocery store is going to come off as out of touch. But what do you think about the message there?
I mean, I guess I get where he's going with it. And when the government says that they're making something affordable, you can bet your ass the cost is going to go up. Like, affordable healthcare. Healthcare is more expensive than it's ever been. Affordable housing, housing prices have skyrocketed. So anything that they try to make affordable, and when they start throwing around that word and using that tag, the opposite effect happens, because they're constricting the free market in order to try to control pricing, and that's going to fail every single time. So he's ineloquent in the point that he's getting at. I understand kind of where he's going, is that affordability is something that the market produces. It's not something you can force from above.
Every president has the affordability button. Right. The tools they do have are freeing up market forces to achieve that sort of affordability. It's not directing people to produce or sell at certain prices, like you're saying. But the thing is, like, I grant the premises of what he's saying. This is largely a function of Democrat policies. He mentioned the Inflation Reduction Act and all the out of control spending. Yeah, when the government just makes up a bunch of funny money and everybody's buying power is increased, especially when you've restricted supply through your COVID nonsense, then suddenly stuff costs more. The problem is Biden-era spending levels have largely continued under Trump, under the big, beautiful bill and the rest of the budget proposals. I know that we've taken some money away from certain areas. We've targeted certain spots. We did DOGE. But it's not as though you've seen a drastic reduction in government spending. You've largely continued the overall spending levels of that era. And the truth is, tariffs are going to have an effect on costs too. Now, even if the effect has not been as disastrous as Joe Biden's effect through his giant government spending and through all the COVID production restrictions, we are now under Trump's spending plan, which is roughly the same in terms of raw dollars. And we're also pursuing this trade war simultaneously. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have noble goals in trying to increase or better the U.S. bargaining position globally. But the fact of the matter is, when you restrict markets in that way, you're going to have some sort of cost effect. So we're under Trump's spending plan, which is dollar for dollar wise, largely an extension of the Biden era. We've restricted the market through tariffs, and inflation is kind of stuck at that 3%. Again, it's not 9%. It's maybe not as bad. And I think there's going to be some grace period for Trump, understanding that a lot of the prior policies are responsible for the economic mess that was created. But we're now a year into that. We're now a year into his plan, through his budget plan, through his tariff plan. Inflation is not reducing. He's saying we're crushing it. Like, no, I mean, it's January to now, it's flat. It was kind of a valley and it went back up, but it's flat. Eventually that becomes your responsibility, rightly or wrongly. You're going to have to come up with more than just saying it's a hoax, Democrats did it. There's going to have to be a solution here. I'm not even saying he's incapable of doing that or he won't do that. Just the political messaging I find to be a little, it leaves a little to be desired here. But did you follow the farm subsidy announcement?
I did. Yes.
Okay. So Trump also announced $12 billion in farm subsidies this week to offset the cost of tariffs to American food producers. And the idea here, at least as advertised by the Trump administration, is using tariff revenues to give farmers who've been hurt by the tariffs they've had difficulty, of course, selling their product to foreign markets. We're going to help them out. We're going to use tariff revenues to do that. Now, optimistically, this is a temporary solution to temporary pain to improve the bargaining position of the United States and our producers with other countries. Pessimistically, this is government creating a problem and then spending government money to fix the problem. much like inflation, I think Trump does have a grace period here, assuming this is a temporary solution to some temporary pain, and that is the intent. But again, now that we're almost a year through it, people are going to start questioning the wisdom or the direction of this tariff plan. But what are your thoughts on the farm subsidies? Not that we're like, not that our country's a stranger to doing farm subsidies ever before, but these are specifically in the context of the tariffs.
I mean, there's permanent farm subsidies built into our mandatory spending. So we subsidize farming just as a general practice, which is fine actually. If you're going to subsidize something in society, food is a pretty good choice. But I mean, as long as the funds for this are actually coming from tariffs, this seems fine. I mean, it seems a little weird to
money's fungible, apparently this is under an existing, this spending is authorized through prior congressional budgeting, and then the executive has the authority to distribute it.
Yeah. So the other thing that this came along with is there's also trade negotiations with China to buy from our farmers. So so it's not just the subsidies, it's not just a bailout, as some people are saying. There are actual market levers that are being pulled here and there. There's a deal with China to buy especially soybeans from our American farmers, and that's something that's supposed to be renewable year after year. So because that's the thing that has to happen. You can't just keep throwing money through farm subsidies. If the market that the farmers are relying on being there in order to sell their goods is what has been damaged, then the fix is to repair that market, because that's what they're going to need going forward in order to be sustainable. Is they're going to need to be able to sell those goods. Yeah, and so that's so there is money being just handed over in order to provide short-term relief, but there is also negotiations in place that are meant to set up sort of a more long-term sustainable solution here. So, and
I hope that's the end result. Obviously, the whatever inflationary effect, negative effect tariffs have had, again, it's not as disastrous as maybe I or other people could perhaps worried it would be, insofar as 3% inflation and the increased cost of living is not as bad as the 9% that we saw in 2022. And I hope that it is a little bit of temporary pain to get to a more solid bargaining position in the future. I just wonder how long American patience is going to last on that, if we are hearing a simultaneous message about affordability being a hoax and so forth. Again, with full understanding that I know what he means, but I just I don't know. We need some refinement in the political messaging here, if this is the proper path to be on. But we'll see. The other concern here with farm subsidies is making sure that they're distributed in a way that I hate that the culture war has ruined this word, but in a way that's equitable. Because if all of the what?
Shut up.
Equitable used to be a perfectly usable word. It's now been absolutely trashed. But an actual equitable distribution of these funds, and just to make sure that it's not all going to the large corporate farms, because at that point it's just going to choke out any of the small sort of family-run farm businesses. Those will just start disappearing, and that would be bad.
All right, enough of this boring financial and economic talk. Let's get to what matters, which is kicking people out of this country. The economy was not all that Trump talked about at Mount Pocono. He also did a little bit of freestyling about Minnesota Somalis and Ilhan Omar. And Trump actually called for Ilhan Omar's deportation, or at least said that she needs to get the hell out of our country, on the basis that she married her brother to commit immigration fraud.
Do we have any individuals from Somalia in the group? Please raise your hand. That's for Minnesota. That's called the Great Big Minnesota Scam, with one of the dumbest governors ever in history. I love this Ilhan Omar, whatever the hell her name is, with the little turban. I love her. She comes in, there's nothing but bitch. She's always complaining. She comes from a country where, I mean, it's considered about the worst country in the world, right? They have no military. They have no nothing. They have no parliament. They don't know what the hell the word parliament means. They have nothing. They have no police. They police themselves. They kill each other all the time. I love it. She comes to our country, and she's always complaining about the Constitution allows me to do this. We ought to get her the hell out. She married her brother in order to get in, right? She married her brother. Therefore, she's here illegally. She should get the hell out. Throw her the hell out. She does nothing but complain.
You know, first of all,
bingo.
Trump is like the ultimate Lloyd and Harry from Dumb and Dumber when he buys the little scooter. Just when I think you can't get any worse. You know, just when I'm down on you on some of your economic talk, you go and do something like this and totally redeem yourself. It's like the Trump stand-up guy, no matter what political mistakes he may have, that guy will always be capable of winning people back, at least for me. For all his faults, like, and I know he has, it's big talk, and he has to take action on that. And as we'll get into here, he needs to hold himself accountable by using the power he has to pursue these things. But that kind of stand-up freestyle bit, I don't know that it's ever, that anyone in politics has ever, or at least in recent times, replicated that. Whatever that quality is, he just has that. But anyway.
And this was classic Trump. This felt like 2015, 2016 Trump. Like this was
the impression wasn't even bad. The Constitution says that. I don't know. I don't know what he's doing there, but it kind of sounds like her. I can sort of hear her in my head when he says that. But yes, as discussed, and as has been covered as a long time ago, there was a lot of coverage of this. And she was elected to Congress in 2018. She took office in 2019. This story was big in around that time and into 2020. She 100% married her brother. To summarize the record, the allegation is not that it was for Ilhan Omar to get into this country. She came here in 1995 as a refugee or under an asylum program from the Somali Civil War. As Trump says, they're always killing each other. That was 1995. I was a young child. Now it's 30 years later, and they're still killing each other in some sort of civil war, which is why they continue to need aid and refugee help from other countries. But it's not that Ilhan Omar lied about marriage to get her into the country. It's that she lied about marriage or used a fraudulent marriage to get her brother into the country. So Ilhan Omar comes from Mogadishu in 1995. Her brother is Ahmed Noor Saeed Elmi, or at least that's the guy who's widely believed to be her brother. He is a British-born Somali. Ilhan Omar originally married a guy named Ahmed Abdesayin Hersey. I'm doing my best. We'll call him Hersey. Married that guy in 2002. This was a religious, non-legal ceremony. She separates from that guy in 2008, and she marries Elmi, the guy believed to be her brother, in 2009. Elmi then gets into this country on that basis. Ilhan Omar curiously then reconciled with her first husband, Hersey, in 2011. Quite a convenient timeline. Hersey and Omar actually had another kid together. They had previous children together too. She did not legally divorce Elmi. Again, the guy, so just to you understand, she has a religious marriage to one guy with whom she has children. She has a legal marriage to another guy named Elmi, who's believed to be her brother, who comes from the UK, and he gets into this country. She didn't legally divorce Elmi, her brother, or alleged brother, until 2017. Meanwhile, she actually lives with this other guy, appears to be the wife of this other guy, raises children with this other guy. Very odd that she fell out of love with him right before she married this other guy and he comes to this country. Very odd that the legal divorce doesn't happen until 2017 when what happened? She runs for Congress in 2018. All very odd unless the legal status was the only point the whole time. And as far as the evidence that Elmi is her brother and not just her friend or her very legitimate husband or whatever else, there are several pieces. So there are Somalis in Minnesota in the community who say that Ilhan Omar has confided in them that Elmi is her brother. So we have witnesses to this effect. And the idea was that her brother Elmi was in the UK. He needed to come into rehab, get away from bad influences. That was the reason for his need to come to the US. So they did this whole marriage bit. Okay. Circumstantially, Ilhan Omar married this guy Elmi, again, believed to be her brother, in a secret, not even Muslim ceremony. In fact, there was a Christian officiant. And I am not the police of Somali tradition, but it's apparently very bizarre in Somalian tradition not to marry Muslim, to marry under a Christian officiant, to marry in secret such that nobody attended the event, nobody really knew about it. That is a very atypical way of going about things. Then, this to me is really one of the kill shots. Social media posts now deleted, why were they deleted, show that Elmi, there was a picture of Elmi with Omar's child. He had posted this, and he described the child as, quote, his niece, who, even if someone's like, oh, he's like a brother to me, oh, he's like a son to me, is anybody really like a niece to you if they're not your niece? I've just never heard of anybody colloquially calling someone their niece if they're not, in fact, their niece.
Well, this is just going to get right back to that Mamdani, my aunt, who's my aunt, but not really my aunt thing.
Oh, that's right. He's the only one.
It's just gonna be people like, oh, well, you don't understand how the rest of the world uses these terms.
Yes.
Aunt, uncle, niece,
it's
nephew.
a Uganda, Somalia, whatever. I wouldn't get it.
Yeah.
This is also another kill shot to me because Ilhan Omar's father also arrived in 1995. He changed his name when he arrived. He became Nur Omar Mohammed. But multiple sources confirm his name prior was Nur Saeed. Now, why is that important? Under Somali immigration custom, they don't use family surnames, like in a last name way that we think of in the United States or Western culture. The name Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi, the guy believed to be Ilhan's brother, implies his father is Nur Saeed. As in, his father is Nur, his grandfather is Saeed, his great-grandfather is Elmi. That's the structure. In other words, the name of Ilhan Omar's dad, Nur Saeed, implies that Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi is his son. If Elmi is his son, then Ilhan is his sister. It's not impossible for someone to be named Ahmed Nur Saeed Elmi and not be of relation to this particular Nur Saeed, but doesn't that seem like a really odd coincidence given the proximity to Ilhan Omar?
Well, how common is Nur Saeed in Somalia? Is it like the John Smith?
Is it like Jashanpreet Singh driving trucks? I don't know. But I got to imagine they have more than like 3 names. You know, is this like the John Smith of Somalia, or is this something a little more complicated? I don't know. But as we're talking about what's going to be done about it, because we can riff, we can freestyle about jokes about Ilhan Omar marrying her brother and committing fraud. The fact of the matter is she did commit fraud, both in the immigration context and, as we've discussed, in the welfare context of feeding our future. Okay, so how would this be handled? And I don't actually know because, of course, she is a citizen of this country. What's the process for... Is that just a criminal thing if you assist someone else in immigration fraud? Is that a denaturalization and removal thing? I don't know the answer to that question, but apparently immigration authorities, border authorities are now looking into it. Tom Homan says that he is actively looking into the case now.
You know, I just got advised by a fraud investigator the other day on that. I asked the question, who reviewed the file and says that, there was immigration fraud involved. The statute of limitation became an issue in the last 4 years when this was first brought up. Who was president? Who ran DOJ? So pulling the records now, pulling the files, and we're looking at, but this fraud investigator, who I know personally, one of the best fraud investigators in HSI, Homeland Security Investigations, said there's no doubt he reviewed the file. So I'm running that down this week, matter of fact, and we'll see. Okay.
So I don't know what the remedy potential here is, but it's apparently under investigation. Here's my question for you, though. Given the things that Ilhan Omar has done and to me, these things seem kind of beyond a reasonable doubt. The brother thing seems beyond a reasonable doubt. The knowledge or participation of the fraud, it's beyond a reasonable doubt to me that she knew what was going on with. When I say the fraud, I have to clarify the feeding our future stuff, the welfare fraud. Seems beyond a reasonable doubt that she knew, if not actively participated. But she was in on it to some extent because she wrote the bill. She is very close friends and promoted the people who are some of the key figures in that fraud. She held her campaign victory event at the key site of the fraud. She knew if it needs more evidence, it needs the lightest touch of investigation to find some of those silver bullets in there that prove the case. But assuming that it is what it looks like, and she's committed immigration fraud, she's committed welfare fraud, or at least assisted in the construction of a gigantic welfare fraud scheme, potentially one of the largest, if not the largest in the history of this country, is it better from a justice perspective to deport Ilhan Omar back to Mogadishu, or does she belong in prison here? What is the more just thing to do? Got to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, well, she's a U.S. citizen who has broken U.S. law, so I think dealing with it through the U.S. system is probably better and more fair. I mean, she definitely needs to be out of office. Like, there's no reason why she should continue to hold an elected seat in Congress. Like, that's wild.
Well, and George Santos, and we kick our members out for. And again, I don't like George Santos. I think he's a scammer. I would never vote for George Santos, but we kick people out for all sorts of things. George Santos was kicked out before he was even convicted in court. Yeah. We got people beating up federal agents in LaMonica MacGyver. We got Ilhan Omar defrauding this country. And you're right that forget like criminal justice. That's a step ahead. Like, why is this lady in Congress? Why isn't the House serious about investigating this stuff, given how serious the evidence is? That's a fair question too. But yeah, DOJ, everybody at Homeland Security and the immigration front, you got to be serious about investigating this. Again, it's not just about like political enemies at this point. This is defrauding our immigration system, but if it is what it looks like, this lady is part of probably the biggest financial fraud in the history of this country. You have to prosecute that, whether she's a Democrat, Republican, or anybody else. It's not even politics at that point. You ripped off this country, and it looks like you designed it or were a key part of designing it. It just takes balls. Like, this is no longer a question of fact finding, although you do your due diligence and you find what remaining facts may be left to be found. But this is a question of balls. Like, you got the power. It's fun to sit up there and riff. It's fun to sit up there and make the jokes. And like I said, I appreciate it. But you're the one with your hand on the lever of power. How are you going to exercise it? And if Ilhan Omar is not prosecutable, speaking of the swamp and all the people that you have to go get, if you can't get Ilhan Omar, who the hell can you get? I don't see a lot of people with clearer cases than this. So it's this whole case is a strange one in that it appears very obvious, and yet there's not a lot of action taken on it. So the dunking from a political sense is funny and entertaining, but it's just empty if there's not serious legal action taken. And I so far, other than Tom Homan saying maybe, I don't see a lot of indicators that there's going to be serious legal action taken.
Yeah, I mean, he's basically said that it's under review, which, I mean, that's, what, is it on Pam Bondi's desk? What does this mean?
Hey, speaking of, unless you have more to say about Ilhan Omar, all done with her?
So the only thing I do have to say is I think Trump should stop going after her, because the more he hammers on this, the more the Democrats are just going to circle the wagons around her as a Trump bad, anti-Trump. I mean, their whole platform is anti-Trump. So if you're actually trying to get something like this done, because this is a serious thing that needs to happen, like, she needs to be removed from Congress. The last thing that you should have happen is Trump banging on about it, because it's just going to rally all the Democrats to support her. But we need the Democrats to actually hold her accountable.
The Democrats to hold her accountable?
Yes.
Okay.
So
Speaking
that's what
of
I'm
calling
saying,
for
is
preposterous things.
You need to have the more reasonable minds in Congress. The calls need to come from within Congress, not from the White House.
Okay. Well, I hope for such a day. I really do. I'm going to keep hoping. But speaking of congressional pests, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I tried to be patient with Marjorie Taylor Green, now resigning Congresswoman from Georgia. And she has a great voting record. I appreciate her voting record. She's right about foreign war entanglements. She's right about protecting the American taxpayer. She's right about Epstein. She's right about pretty much everything she votes on.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
As discussed a few weeks ago, I really don't get the resignation decision reasoning that she offered, as in Trump is mean to me now, so I have to go, okay, fine. There are questions about why she's choosing to leave when she is and how the pension plays into that. Okay. There are questions about her willingness to fight. She talks about how she's the biggest fighter in Congress, but also she's quitting. We've also seen her own personal wealth grow quite a lot. Marjorie Taylor Green instead of Traitor Green. Okay. I tried with Marjorie Taylor Green, and I still wish Congress would vote like Marjorie Taylor Green does and did, but it really seems she could not help but check out. She is now seemingly auditioning for CNN, and as part of this interview segment with Wolf Blitzer and whoever else this woman is, it's like 10 to 15 minutes of just CNN talking points, it seems. She talks about how Trump is hateful and is tearing apart the country.
President Trump posted yesterday that you are, quote, not America first or MAGA, and your, quote, new views are those of a very dumb person.
Well, actually, Wolf, I feel very sorry for President Trump. I genuinely do. It has to be a hard place for someone that is constantly so hateful and puts so much vitriol, name-calling, and really tells lies about people in order to try to get his way or win some kind of fight. And I think that's exactly what's wrong in America today. That's what's wrong in this toxic political environment that has ripped our country apart. And I personally think that that's poor leadership from a president. It's a very bad demeanor, and Americans are very tired of it.
Okay, but almost nothing has changed about Trump's behavior, as questionable as it is at times, and we just went through questioning a bunch of it. Other than Marjorie Taylor Green is now the target of it. When everyone else was the target of it, she was probably the biggest cheerleader for it that there was. Now she is the target of it, and I think a lot of that stuff Trump's wrong about. Like going after her for being insistent and persistent about the Epstein files, I think Trump's wrong about that. But now Marjorie Taylor Green has decided that Trump's rhetoric is tearing this country apart because why? Is it some newfound principle against divisive political rhetoric? No, it's that she's targeted. That's it. And now she's quitting. The biggest fighter is quitting. The woman who cheerleaded the guy who's been doing this stand-up insult comedy bit for the last decade has changed her mind about it because now she's the one who is the butt of the jokes. This kind of stuff I can't stand as much as I actually agree with her on principle about a lot of things.
Yeah, she's definitely gearing up for something. She really looks like she's auditioning, like you said, for some sort of job at CNN. This has been the second or third really cushy interview that she's done on CNN, where she's been very complimentary towards them and specifically their coverage.
And it happened again as far as the complimentariness. What's the word I'm looking for there? And I want to get to that in a moment, but there's a reason I say that she's chicking out, and not just because she happens to be a woman. She actually said, as part of this interview, that she's joining Nancy Mace, who wrote an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal, or I think it was the Wall Street Journal, I forget which publication, talking about how Republicans in Congress don't respect women enough. They don't take women seriously.
It is extremely frustrating as a rank and file Republican member in our majority, our Republican majority, that many of us women are not taken seriously, and our legislation is not taken seriously. I'll give you an example right now. Mike Johnson promised me that one of our it's in my bill. It's called Protect Children's Innocence Act. It's a key piece of legislation that is one of President Trump's top campaign promises, and that's to protect any child under the age of 18 from gender-affirming care. Our position is let these kids grow up. They need to grow up before they do any permanent changes to their body. Mike Johnson, that bill has passed through the Judiciary Committee. It is ready to go for a House floor vote. Johnson promised me a vote on it after the shutdown, and it has yet come to the floor.
You sound like a hysterical bleeping snowflake lesbo bleep.
Hey, speaking of promises, finishing out the term to which your constituents elected you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, speaking of taking legislation seriously, you staying on the job to do that. Maybe the reason Mike Johnson doesn't give a rat's ass about your bill, as valid as its ends may be, is because you are quitting. Who's quitting on the bill, Mike Johnson or you? They don't take women seriously enough. Okay, now we're doing the like scorned woman bit. I can't stand this stuff. This is why I have to be done. Not that I was going to become president of the Marjorie Taylor Green fan club before this, but I feel like you with Pam Bondi, where I accused you of simping for Pam Bondi. You try to be fair and wise about it, but then she just chicks out like that. And like, why did I even bother?
No, it's just, once again, it seems like congressional Republicans just are like allergic to power or something. They don't want it. They have no interest in actually being the party in power. They have no idea how to actually wield the legislative branch of this country. And she's a prime example. Like she can't get immediately exactly what she wants, so she stomps out and throws a hissy fit.
And it's everybody
everywhere.
else's fault.
It's everybody else's fault. Like there's no accountability. Like she's entirely puffing herself up. Like I did everything right. And they still attacked me and like all this stuff. I'm actually thinking she might be gearing up for a 2028 run.
Well, she is kidding herself if she thinks she has a shot in that. And even if she did, that this would be the path to do it. This ain't the path to do it. You're pissing off the people who would be your base if you had one. So if that's what she's trying to do, fire all your political advisors yesterday, because this is the absolute wrong way to do it. But I actually would be shocked if she became a presidential candidate in 2028. I don't, just gut level, I don't think that's what she's aiming for. But it seems like she's aiming for something, so I can't dismiss it outright. But
she's gearing up for something, and she's trying to like establish coalitions, and she's trying to, she's really trying to get a lot of support behind her from both sides of the aisle. And it's like, well, it's really weird that you're choosing to leave the government and also have this sort of bipartisan approach to
now that you're out, you're the champion.
You have all these opinions. Well, but now you don't have any power to get any of it done. So,
and when I mentioned how cozy it's become with CNN, maybe I'm being a little unfair in the way this interview ended. Maybe it's just her being a nice Southern gentlewoman and she's just being polite. But you tell me how cozy you think this ender was.
But the criticism, like I get criticized for coming on CNN, and you just had a Republican before me on CNN, and it's unfair criticism because Fox News doesn't ever invite me on. They invited me one time recently after I resigned. We've responded back to the producer, and they still haven't said when I can come on. So I thank you. I enjoy coming on, and I appreciate the questions.
Okay. I get it. Whenever you talk to people, you kill them with kindness, you be nice, even if it's hostile territory. But my problem is just the premise there, beyond like how chummy it is with Wolf Blitzer and company, the people who are responsible for pushing some of the greatest lies of the last decade, and who she previously said were responsible for all but undoing what you previously believed about what undid the 2020 election, what was responsible for all the COVID nonsense, all the challenges to the president that you formerly supported. Their network is hugely responsible for all of that stuff. I get it. You be nice. You don't treat people rudely just for the sake of being rude. The problem, though, the premise there, other Republicans go on CNN, they don't get criticized. I'm not saying you have to go on there and give them double middle fingers, but it's as though you're ignoring entirely their role in not just being adversarial to your political preferences, but being adversarial to the truth in recent years, being the biggest pushers of some of the biggest lies in recent years. By all means, go on to CNN and argue your points and stand up for yourself. And I don't think anybody's actually criticizing people for appearing on CNN. It's just the tone and the niceness and the complimentariness that she's bringing there. The criticism is not appearing. The criticism is licking butts. And it appears that she is licking CNN butt right now.
That's disgusting.
So, or am I being too harsh? Is it just polite or is she butt licking?
Yeah, she's definitely butt licking. And she doesn't realize that the only reason why they continue to have her on and that they are being so nice to her is because she is anti-Trump right now. She is going against Trump, and that is the only thing they are interested in. They're just trying to get anti-Trump sound bites, especially out of a Republican. So she's just a useful idiot for CNN. They're not interested in her as a person. They still hate her. Like
they will lick her butt though. I think they'll give her that courtesy.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we're up against the top of the hour, so I'll have to move a little bit quickly here because I don't want to leave callers and emailers and all that hanging too long. But a couple stories here before we move into those calls and messages. Last piece in congressional showmanship or showwomanship, Jasmine Crockett, the representative for Waffle House.
I don't even like racism.
She actually represents Dallas. When I say Waffle House, that's untrue. But Jasmine Crockett has now announced at the last second she is running for Texas statewide office. She is running for Senate from Texas in 2026. I believe that there was some other prominent Democrat who was going to run and just dropped out. So it might be just opportunity here for Jasmine Crockett. But she's in. This is going to be up against, the race is going to be for the seat of incumbent Republican John Cornyn. He's up for re-election. He himself is facing primary challengers, so it's no guarantee that he's actually running for re-election. The Republicans are going to have their own contest. But I looked at the names in the Democrat primary again. Colin Allred, I think, was the big name who was supposed to run. He ran against Ted Cruz last time and lost. It sounds like he's out. And so Jasmine Crockett is in. The rest of these names, I don't know who these people are. And they don't even have Wikipedia pages, so they can't be that important. And I sense that this is really just a quick grab at opportunity for Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine Crockett's campaign announcement is just a video of her totally silent with audio of Trump ripping her.
How about this new one they have? Their new star, Crockett. How about her? She's the new star of the Democrat Party, Jasmine Crockett. They're in big trouble. But you have this woman, Crockett. She's a very low IQ person. I watched her speak the other day. She's definitely a low IQ person. Crockett. Oh, man. Oh, man. She's a very low IQ person. Somebody said the other day she's one of the leaders of the party. I said, you got to be kidding. Now they're going to rely on Crockett. Crockett's going to bring them back.
There's a lot of good soundboard material in there I need to pull. But it's an interesting political choice because it tells us, your political priority is not what you say yourself. It's what others say or what one particular guy says about you. And what you're granting with that presentation is that Trump is still the North Star of political orientation, or the reverse North Star in your case. If he says bad, it must be good. And that's the framing of your campaign. Well, Trump says I'm bad, therefore I must be good. I don't think that's the own that it's supposed to be. That shows that you actually don't have a lot of independent thought or thought independent of him. So highly questionable campaign decision. Do you think that was all at all a good approach there?
No, I don't think she's had a good approach to anything.
Even if you were a Democrat, though, like if you were,
I'm sure. I'm sure the Democrats, especially Democrat women, probably love this kind of thing because it shows, defiance and everything. But it also shows that Trump is living rent free inside your head. Like he doesn't have to do anything to bother you. You stay bothered. So
It's the question that's unanswered is, if it weren't for Trump, like, you're literally doing but Trump.
Yeah.
If it weren't for Trump, what would your message be? I have to guess.
What is the
great.
reason why you should be promoted from your current position into one that is more powerful and more important? Because you have a chip on your shoulder because this guy has called you out? That's not a compelling reason for anybody to vote for you.
Well, Jasmine explained what her philosophy is here. She says that approach demonstrates that Trump and Republicans are afraid of her. That's why she went the route that she did. She explained her campaign strategy on CNN.
Your campaign launch video solely showcases the president insulting you repeatedly. Why did you choose that approach here?
I am the one that he is afraid of. I am the one that the Republicans fear. They can say that they don't, but my governor cannot stop tweeting about me. And I know that that is out of fear, because honestly, if they really wanted me as the nominee, they would be quiet and just wait and hope to crush me. But they know my strength, and they know my ability to reach people that historically have not wanted to participate in politics.
I doubt it.
One of her campaign slogans that she's going with is, Texas is not red, it's unheard. Clever, maybe, but it's definitely heard. Okay, a Republican is not, or a Democrat has not won statewide election in Texas for 30 years. In the Senate races in 2024, Ted Cruz won by 7 points. In 2020, John Cornyn won by 10 points. In 2018, Ted Cruz beat their biggest star, Beto, by 2.5 points in a midterm year with maximum anti-Trump sentiment.
Hell yes.
For Jasmine Crockett, she does have the benefit of a midterm. She does have the benefit of maximum anti-Trump sentiment. Could she do better than Beto, whatever the hell his name was? I already forgot. Maybe. It's possible. But I mean, if it was possible, this would be the sort of year that it's possible. But the reason this is going to be the show of 2026, as I said at the top of the show, either this is going to go as expected. Jasmine Crockett is going to get crushed and embarrassed, and it'll be hilarious, and we'll all enjoy the show. She can say that she represents Texas broadly, and she's going to find out that she doesn't. Or Jasmine Crockett pulls off the kind of miracle that she's talking about here. She actually does it. And if she does, I'm not hoping for it, but there would be some value in that in two ways. One, if Crockett actually wins Texas, everything's cooked. Okay, give me the black pills. I'm collapsitarian. The collapse is here. It's not even collapsitarian at that point. The collapse is here. Get to your bunkers. Hope you stocked up on emergency food supplies, all of that. It's an obituary, as I said. If she wins, it's an obituary. The Republicans are dead. If they can't hold off Jasmine Crockett in Texas, it's over. The party's dead. I'm not hoping for that, obviously. That would be a terrible outcome. But there would be clarity in that event. What do you think about that diagnosis?
Yeah, I mean, it would be. I mean, because right now there's no real vision for the Republican Party, and that's probably their biggest their biggest problem going into the midterms is nobody really understands what this Republican Party is even about. The MAGA fervor is really starting to kind of die down. I mean, MAGA is still important in the Republican Party, but there's a lot of the Republicans are really starting to realize that they have to have sort of a post-MAGA identity. Once, Trump's out of office, and if the next Republican candidate isn't, from the MAGA house, then they're going to have to figure out what their identity is. And they're having a massive identity crisis right now in the middle of the time where they're supposed to be bolstering power. And they can't, because they can't really coalesce around any sort of central messaging. And that's going to be a huge problem for them in the midterms, especially if this stupid Epstein file stuff is still up in the air. Like if this isn't resolved by the midterms, and there's still people calling for the full release of some documents. Like if everything that people want is not out by the midterms, then the Republicans are cooked.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
When's the deadline again? Isn't it in like a week or something?
Yeah, I mean,
2
so
weeks?
that's the primary release, but there's things that are going to get redacted. There's things that are going to be held back because of potential
the first
open
truckload.
investigations.
That's all we get.
Yeah, exactly. So, there's a possibility that something like this could sneak through if the Republicans can't figure out how to, get their ass underneath them and start working towards at least give the appearance of a united front or a united vision, a single direction. Right now, it looks like the Republicans are getting pulled in multiple directions, fighting a bunch of fights that are being really controlled and designated by the Democrats. And so
I'm going to pull this point just for time because we're already 7 past the hour, and I do want to talk about the Brony thing. But this clip is recirculating. Speaking of Jasmine Crockett, the prospect of her winning statewide in Texas and how it's over if she does. This clip is from 2024, but it's out, and maybe if we have time later in the show, I'll come back to it. Jasmine Crockett, considering the concept, she supports reparations, or at least Congress studying how we could do reparations. But she's considering the idea of instead of reparations, instead of giving out money, why don't we just have black people be tax-free? There's no tax for black people in this country. And this learned lawyer somehow believes that a policy of taxation based on race would pass constitutional challenge. Even Ketanji Brown Jackson would be like, all right, that clearly doesn't work. It's maybe I'll come back to it if we have time. It's worth a listen. It's circulating. It's from last year.
So
race-based taxation.
Taxation emancipation. Is that what
Really quick before we get into the calls, we've got more information on the accused, now supposedly confessed January 6th pipe bomber Brian Cole Jr. According to new reporting, he is a brony.
Look at this fat.
As in an adult male enthusiast of My Little Pony and the My Little Pony universe. Of course, toys and media for primarily little girls, except for the bronies. Do bronies outnumber actual little girl fans of My Little Pony at this point? They might. They're big enough to have their own conventions and stuff. But on a My Little Pony art forum, Brian accused, again, now supposedly confessed January 6th pipe bomber Brian Cole Jr. posted as I Delta Velocity. He uploaded 87 pieces of My Little Pony fan art, favorited thousands more, in fact, tens of thousands more, 84,000. He really likes. How do you even click through 84,000 My Little Pony pictures? But he did. Also had a Tumblr account focused on My Little Pony art. Now, according to this reporting in the New York Post, what is the quote here? None of Cole's posts examined by the Post, the New York Post, had any noticeable sexual connotations. But as you looked through this earlier today, Skulldugger, you sent me one art submission that I think begs to differ because this looks like this guy has some level of interest in cartoon horse ass.
I want some butts!
Is that a sexualized pony ass or is it not? He drew it, by the way. This is his artwork.
This is his submission. This is on his artist page.
So my biggest question, aside from whether he was sexually interested in cartoon horses or not, is did Willie Tepes, was he big on this My Little Pony forum? The same guy who was telling Thomas Crooks on YouTube how much he likes political assassinations and how they should be friends. Was Willie Tepes interacting here as well? But okay, the gay war has many different tentacles. Of course, it became the trans war with all the many trans shooters and friends of Tim Walz. You have Tyler Robinson, the accused Charlie Kirk assassin, and his boyfriend Lance Twiggs, and they're into furry whatever. Is there something here with this sexual deviance? Again, like I know this one is the biggest one to stretch to say that it's sexual deviance. But what am I looking at here? I'm not, like you said, it's not straight up porn or something, but like, who's that into this?
Yeah. I mean, especially when you're it originated as a thing for children, for especially like little girls, and now you have these adult men uh, using it to fulfill their fantasies about I don't even know what this was one of the most disturbing rabbit holes I have been down in a very long time. I mean,
You don't do enough rabbit holes then.
most of the content was innocent, was, you know, no big deal. But it's just like as you're scrolling through some of this stuff, it's just every now and then there'll just be one of these images like this one right here, and you're just like, well, what is this about? There was also GIFs that were you know, just as suggestive as this image, and you're just like, what am I even looking for? Why is this here?
I don't know. I guess I'm not going to scroll through these. But if they, I don't know. If any bronies out there want to defend your honor and explain to me how this is totally normal for adult guy, not just like to, again, 84. I don't know if I've ever liked 84,000 pieces of social media content all time, like Facebook posts, YouTube videos, tweets. I don't know if I've clipped 84,000 in my entire life. This guy is that into My Little Pony. And I just, I don't know. I don't know how that's relevant to being a pipe bomber, but it seems like it has to be, doesn't it? Or maybe it's maybe he's just a weird autistic kid who got picked up by Willie Tepes on the My Little Pony forum. Maybe that's the connection. Like if you belong to these weird internet communities, that's where they shop for the people they're looking to put in the position of the, you know, various assassins and attempted assassins of the world. But all right, we got to get into our caller, Skulldugger, if you're ready for that.
All right.
Let me grab our first caller. I got to unmute myself. Is Vong. Vong, thank you for being patient. And what do you got for us?
Hello, Matt. Hello, Skulldugger. How are the both of you?
Hello.
We are well. What's on your mind?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
Glad to hear that. Well, of course, as always, first, standards must be maintained and traditions must be upheld. Chat. I drink your tears as always.
Shut up, faggot.
Sorry, they have to heckle you.
Wah, chat. No, I do that kind of as a repaying their favor. But that's a story for another time. Long story short, I'm here to not make you tap the sign, but to tap the sign at you again, Matt, because, well, I still think you're wrong about the concept and purposes and organizing principles of marriage.
You got 90 seconds. You go for it.
All right. So there's a tough pill. All right. This is going to be a bit more fire and brimstone possibly than I usually go. But look, there's something that's a bit of a tough pill for a lot of people today to swallow, and that's that one of the functions of society, of the rules we put together, we put on ourselves when human beings live together. One of the things we have to do is to prescribe, and by those rules prescribing it, constrain destructive forms of sexual behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, I think we see all around us these days the kind of bad things that happen when we don't. I don't think any of us could deny that. That's true.
Fully agree.
All right, great. So, one of the things that the things about marriage, right, is that it is the best way we've found to do that. And marriage, this is one of the things that the church talks about in this, is that marriage did indeed pre-exist Christianity of any form, and did always have one nature of a contract in the before times, but it was raised to the nature of a sacrament by Christ. And it's this kind of thing that it's not just children, because if it were, then gay pairings, adopting children, could in some way be considered a marriage. Which
no, they can't. Every child has one father and one mother.
But they're not being raised by that father and mother.
That child is owed that father and mother. Two men can't create a child.
They can't create them, but if those parents are dead,
they can take them. Yeah, they can take them.
So there's also an issue here. You're pointing out an extreme exception to negate the rule. So just because you can find certain circumstances where this rule doesn't apply, but those are few and far between, Those are not that's not a representative snapshot of what most marriages are. Doesn't mean that negates the standard, which Matt has made very clear, is that the primary role of marriage is for the production and raising of children. That doesn't mean that there's not other roles of marriage and other things can come in, but the primary role of marriage in society is evidently the production and raising of children.
Don't make me tap the sign.
Don't make me make Skulldugger explain it.
I mean, again, the thing is that that's not just that's not the only example. There are a lot of examples.
We never said only. Once again, you're getting caught up on only. Primary.
Hold on. All right. No, hold on.
There are a lot of different
everybody chill out.
In which
Vaughn, go. Yeah, go ahead.
There are a lot of different situations in which that organizing principle does not apply, and the problem of it is that
there's literally no other way to make a child than the combination of mother and father.
I understand that very well, Matt.
So what are the other? What's the other way that it's done?
I didn't say that there's another way it's done. I said that organizing principle does not suffice because it does not sufficiently exclude all. It does not sufficiently exclude enough other possibilities.
What is the other possibility? What's the other possibility for creating life?
Creation of life is a byproduct of marriage. It is not the organizing principle. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, I'm going to back up and return to your original point, which is marriage serves as an appropriate constraint on the sexual relationship, right?
That is the reason for which it is instituted.
What is the appropriate aim of the sexual relationship?
Now you're getting somewhere. There are
what
two.
Is it?
There are two. Creation of children is one of them. The other is so that
one or the primary function.
It is one of two. There isn't necessarily one that's primary over the other, Matt, because it is because of our human weakness.
Of course, there is.
That this is necessary. Look,
okay, what is the other purpose?
The other purpose is as it were called marital chastity, that it constrains these destructive forms of sexual behavior.
Why is that important, though? What purpose is it serving?
Look on the streets of your town during one of those so-called parades they talk about, and tell me that that's not harming society.
Right. So, what would be the proper way to raise those children so they don't do that?
Hold on. What does that have to do with raising children? Again, this is the problem. It's not just children. They are a byproduct and one that is to be received as a gift from the Lord. But it is also a way that the Lord has given us to constrain our human weakness that we do not destroy or damage
constrain
ourselves.
Toward what?
Toward the propagation, towards the continuance of our
toward
existence.
The what? Toward the continued existence? How is that achieved?
Yeah. By not killing each other.
Oh, we won't all die one day, eventually?
We will.
Okay. Unless we do what? Our species dies off unless we do what?
Our species will die off eventually. The Lord will return.
Unless?
Hold on. Yes, we will reproduce. At least some people most likely will, but at some point the human race will end because the Lord will return.
Okay.
And
let me close with the question that I left the conversation with last time. Let's say that every person out there has a biblical marriage, one man, one woman, right? Faithful to each other, Christian faith, however you wish to define this, committed to each other. All of them opt not to have children. Has God's purpose for the institution of marriage been fulfilled?
I would have to consult Augustine's on the goods of marriage, but so long as in doing so, they do not violate their duties under that bond, then yes.
Okay. So nobody has kids. That's consistent with God's purpose.
If they do not violate the goods of marriage, which if one as a partner should need the dues of marriage from the other in order to maintain continence within and not again engage in these destructive behaviors. So long as that does not happen, right? Then yes, the design is fulfilled.
Okay. Here is my counter.
Explicit in scripture.
Here is my counter. All life has value and purpose given to it by God. We agree on that?
Yes.
Okay. If all life has purpose and value given to it by God, there are certain obligations and responsibilities owed to that life. Marriage is the institution that protects those obligations and responsibilities.
I agree. The question is this: is that life created by mankind alone?
What? It's created by husband and wife.
No. God is the author of all life. We can cooperate with him, but it is his choice in the end as to whether children are given us. They're a gift from the Lord and are to be accepted as such. But it is not our will alone that brings new life into existence.
But you don't think marriage is in service to that?
It is in service to that, but only so far as the Lord allows it.
Okay. But I don't have any individual responsibilities or duties?
That's not what I said. You do have duties. And as I say, and the scripture states, right, the dues of marriage are one to the other. That if our human weakness should threaten to cause incontinence, then within the marriage the two are to do what is correct for married couples to do.
Okay, I'm not following at all. The primary purpose of marriage is what, if I'm wrong?
The primary purpose of marriage is twofold. One, as a, so to speak, antidote to our human weakness, and two, thereby to cooperate with the Lord if he should choose to bless us with children and provide the correct environment for their proper raising and education.
The children are God's purpose, but marriage is not in service to that purpose?
No, that's not what I said. The children are a gift from the Lord. And if he chooses to bless us with children, we are to accept that with joy and as a gift.
Okay.
But
to be honest, I'm not following at all, man.
Children are not certain. They're not a certainty.
Right. Here's the thing. Children are inherently a consequence of the union of man and woman. Therefore, there is a responsibility on us to institutionalize the commitment of man and woman to protect the rights of those children to their husband and to their father and mother.
They're a possible consequence.
No,
should
inherently.
the Lord deign to allow it.
They're inherently a consequence. It's not sometimes or maybe. That's how the world continues.
Matt, there are plenty of people who try to have children and are unable to. I mean, these rates are rising.
Yes, there are cars. There are cars that have 3 wheels on them. I get it.
Yes, and they don't run. They don't drive.
They're still cars. Doesn't change the definition of what a car is.
Yes, they're also non-functional as cars.
Doesn't mean that I don't know what a car is. And I say it has nothing to do with transportation and has nothing to do with 4 wheels.
I'm not saying it does. I'm saying you can tell that there's something different about that. It only has 3 wheels.
Yeah, that doesn't define what a car is. That would be the exception, not the rule.
Or the primary purpose of a car. Like, I can make a car into a vegetable garden, but that doesn't mean that the primary purpose of cars suddenly becomes vegetable gardens. The primary purpose of an automobile is for transportation. This is evidently so.
And if you remove the engine and all the other workings to use it for something else, well,
you've created an exception to what the primary purpose of that invention was. That is a construction that was meant for transportation. You were using it outside of its purpose, but its purpose was transportation. You can't, when you said that the primary purpose for something is twofold, you're betraying the meaning of the very word primary. Primary is singular. There can't be a twofold primary. It can't be 2 stages of primary. There is a primary function for marriage.
No, primary is a term of importance. There are
right,
other
but it's still one
purposes
thing.
that are
There's still
secondary.
one thing. It's just one thing, though. There's one thing that is the most important and primary function of marriage, and that is evidently the production and raising of children to propagate and continue society.
I entirely disagree with that because primary does not necessarily mean there is only one thing on this level of importance. It describes
It's in the
a
word.
level of importance.
All right.
It's in the word.
Vaughn, I'm
Prime.
going to give you a last word, and then we'll move on.
Means one.
Vaughn, the floor is yours. We can end there if you prefer.
No, what I would say is this. If the organizing principle of marriage is the generation of children, how does that preclude, therefore, things such as, I don't know, polygamy, wherein children can indeed be generated?
Because each child has one father and one mother, and the child is owed that father and mother. And children with other women is inherently a distraction from that child.
No more so than than a lot of children with the same woman is a distraction from each individual child.
Yeah, each child has one mother and one father, and marriage institutionalizes and protects that arrangement.
Yeah, but each child you add would be decreasing the total amount of attention that can be paid to each.
No, it's each child has one mother and one father. It's not that you can What point are you trying? So you're saying it betrays the purpose of marriage to have multiple children?
No, to have multiple. If one man has multiple wives, right?
Mm-hmm.
He has children with all of them. Well, he is following your organizing principle.
No, he's not. He's not committed to the mother of his children.
That's not part of your organizing principle.
Yes, it is. Each child has one mother and one father.
That's still the case. In a situation of polygamy.
Yes, of course, people can have kids out of wedlock. It's possible. But the point is, without wedlock, it is not in service to the children because the commitment of mother and father is absent. The same thing applies in polygamy.
Yeah,
the polygamy is the vegetable garden car. You have a car that is now a vegetable garden. You are now using the car for an unintended purpose outside of its primary purpose. So that's all you've done here. But a marriage that's functioning within its primary function, within its primary role, is monogamous and has produced children.
See,
that's the car.
I think the distinction that I'm seeing here is that I'm not making the assumption that just because a man has multiple wives and children with all of them, that he therefore necessarily is distracting himself from each individual child, from each individual wife, possibly.
He's depriving that child what the child is owed, which is his mother and father.
That's an argument about parenting rather than marriage. So you're making a statement about fatherhood, not about marriage. He's still not in a functional marriage as we would call it according to God's purpose for marriage. He is outside God's purpose for marriage.
How though? If this generation of proper raising of children is this primary purpose, and he fulfills that with multiple wives.
Because that is not protecting what is owed to the child. Again, let me summarize this as quickly as I can. If we grant the premise that all life has God-given value, God-given purpose, each life that is created is owed the best possible pursuit of that purpose that it can. The commitment of husband and wife, mother and father to that child is what that child is owed to ensure that that child has prosperity, reaches the best life that it possibly can. Anything else is a distraction away from that purpose. Polygamy, marriage out of wedlock, all of these things. The defining feature of the male-female relationship that union, the defining feature of it, the one thing it can do that no other relationship can, is to produce children. And if we grant that life has value given by God in the production of those children, it is owed certain duties and responsibilities. Those are the commitment of father and mother, husband and wife, to that child. That's the sequence of logic here.
I don't disagree with that. What I disagree with is that is the only thing, and perhaps this is the important bit. What is that purpose that you described?
It's nobody said only. It's primary. It is the defining feature of. There are all sorts of other benefits. It's great to have fun with your wife. You should have a enjoyable relationship with your wife in any number of ways. However, the defining feature of the relationship is the capacity to produce new life. That's what separates that relationship from all others.
I think that, as I said, I think this becomes more clear when we look at what is the purpose. What is the purpose and ends of mankind?
Yes. 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 God, life has God-given value, and for life to continue, certain things have to happen.
What is that purpose, though? What is
the continuation of the human species?
See, there I entirely disagree. The ends of mankind is communion with God.
Okay. All right. Well, if we don't agree that life on Earth has God-given purpose and value, I don't. Yeah.
No, I agree with that.
You need humans in order to commune with God.
I believe that the purpose is different than what you believe the purpose is.
I actually don't. Now, see, here's the thing. I've heard this argument a million times. Marriage is about honoring God. It's not about the children. I don't grant that distinction. The children are God's purpose. Those are the same thing. They're not different things. I don't understand how you serve God without children. You're telling me that it would be in service to God for nobody to have children anymore and the entire species to die off. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, read the New Testament. It
quite
explicitly says that if someone can remain unmarried and commit themselves to a lifetime of chastity and abstinence, that is better than marriage. And it quite explicitly says it is better to, but if he cannot do so, let him be married. It is better to marry than to burn.
Then that's the heart of the disagreement. If we don't think that there's a God-given purpose to children, to the continuation of the species, then that's the disconnect. I don't think it's God's purpose for the species to die off. If it's not, new life needs to be created. And for new life to be created properly, there has to be a appropriate way to do it. The appropriate way to do that is marriage.
I think humanity will die eventually when the Lord returns, but it is his choice when that should happen, just like his choice whether we have children or not.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you for the call. And in the spirit of, hey, I know, these things can get kind of tense but I really appreciate you calling in and offering your thoughts on it, even if I continually have to.
Don't make me tap the sign.
Same to you. I get to get heated. It's good to talk about it. Take care, y'all.
All right. Thanks, man. He's out of here. Anything else you want to add?
That got into troll territory. I think he understood at some point that he was cooked and he just committed to the bit.
Maybe, I don't know. I wouldn't accuse him of not being sincere in that way. I believe he is, but frankly, I don't. And I'm not saying this to dismiss. I'm not saying this to dismiss the people who may believe this. I just don't understand the point. If we disagree that children and the continuation of the species is a key part of God's purpose, I don't know what we're doing here. Like, that's a strange nihilistic point to me. Again, I'm not trying to dunk on it or dismiss it. I just don't understand that perspective.
Yeah. It's just that I don't know how people can honestly still come to the that's not the only argument. When they keep using the word only, it's like, how have you not? You're not even engaging with the actual argument at this point. Like, it's either a straw man or they just don't understand like simple English, because only doesn't appear in your statement at all.
Yeah, it's primary, but to me that question is very clarifying. Again, if everybody was biblically married, committed to their spouse, one man, one woman, everybody opted not to have children, is that consistent with God's purpose for the institution? And if children have If children are merely incidental and not the primary purpose, then there's no reason you can't answer that question with a straight yes, an unqualified yes. And yet, very few people have been willing to say that to me. In fact, pretty much nobody has. Yes, that would be consistent with God's purpose, with the exception of this call where it was something like God decides when we all die off. Okay, maybe, obviously, to the extent that I believe God is the author of all morality and life on earth, that's true. Where I would push back on that is the idea that we don't have some sort of responsibility or obligation to continue life on this planet pursuant to God's purpose. And if we do that, there are certain responsibilities and obligations that go along with the creation of that life.
I fully agree. I don't want to torture anybody else with this any longer. So
everybody is. Whoops! What did I press here?
Now,
where did I even hit that?
Nobody saw it happen, but it's totally a product of Trump's America hoax hate crime of the week.
Ah, shit, it's backwards. You think they'll notice?
I would have stopped it if I could. It's like a mystery sounder. Anyway.
Tape all over the place. It's a disgrace.
What I meant to hit was everybody saying.
Shut up, faggot.
And I'll respect that. Sorry. Clearly I care about this. I think there's a reason people care about this. I know I went on way too long. I know I let it go on way too long, but frankly, I'm captivated by this. It's just like you have to get that. You have to get this right. What are we here to do? Is the most fundamental question that exists. And if children are not a part of what we're here to do, I don't know what the answer to that. What? Okay, I guess children are not a part of it, and if we all die off tomorrow and it was all for nothing, that's part of the purpose. Anyway. RB, sorry to make you wait. That's my fault. Are you still there with us?
Hello, yes. No problem.
Yeah, you're the Eastern European guy, so you're up till like
Yes.
God knows what hour. My apology.
Yeah, there's no problem. It's, I'm up late and no issue staying up. So, take as long as you need.
That's very kind of you, but I assure you, or I will commit to not taking that long in the future.
Well, I don't have anything, any heavy stuff, mostly because I don't understand it.
What do you think the purpose of marriage is? I'm kidding.
I don't know. I'm
Please.
not married.
Okay, yeah, please tell me it's a pointless waste of time, and we're going to move on.
No, I don't know. I wouldn't say that. But I was going to talk about boring economic stuff. Not that I know anything about that. But at the last segment about Jasmine Crockett, you mentioned that if she wins, that you're resigned to a collapse, and you're heading for the nearest fallout bunker. The thing is, the collapse, and I do think there will be some significant downturn in the next 10 years. There will be like sort of a significant depression event. But the thing is, systems as they are set up right now basically make something like 2008, and definitely not something like 1933 or 1929 rather, basically impossible. Due to the systems of communication, although it was explained to me that way. And what you will going to get is just gradually decreasing standards of living. You're basically going down the third world shithole ladder from Brazil all the way down to South Africa, where you're, triple locking your doors and you have barbed wire on your fences and stuff like that. And then you're fighting off hordes of like roving gangs that are trying to rob you. And there's not going to be like a Weimar situation or anything like that. It's just going to get things are just going to get shittier and shittier, boiled slowly as a frog in a pot. That's the depressing. That's the tragic bit.
Yeah.
There's no catharsis. There's no war. There's no point where you pick up the gun and go fight the bad guy, because
we don't have the heroic Iwo Jima moment or something. It's just like a bunch of people trying to defraud us on the internet the whole time.
Yeah, it's just call center scams, and until
everybody is resigned to My Little Pony pornography to cope.
Yeah, My
This is a
Little Pony
disaster.
pornography and what's the line from 1984? I'm blanking right now. If you want to see the image of the future, imagine a call center Indian scamming you forever.
I don't know that one. Yeah, I mean, I know the quote it's based on a boot stomping on your face forever, but this is a new one to me.
Yeah, this is the actual. It's not going to be Airstrip 1. It's going to be this. It's going to be just enshittification till the end of time. And it's somewhat connected to the original thing that I wanted to talk about, which is the economy related to the Fed cut, although not entirely. Do you know what modern monetary theory is, or MMT?
In general, I'd probably give it a slightly inaccurate definition if I were to shoot from the hip. But the idea that I understand it to be the idea that government spending or government debt doesn't necessarily matter. That the government can kind of freely infuse the economy with cash and liquidity, and there won't or borrow, and there won't necessarily be major consequences of that. Is that a fair way of characterizing it, or am I way off?
As far as I understand it, yes. Again, I'm not an economist. I don't know anything about it. I just know what some proponents of it are saying about it. And it is entirely fascinating because in their conception of economy, as far as I understand it, they interpret economy as a World of Warcraft economy, wherein government just creates money, and you're using the government's money, and none of the money is really your own. So there's no such thing as a taxpayer money, right? The government creates money, and then it taxes you, not for any reason like to pay for public services or anything like that. It doesn't need to tax you for that. It just creates the money to pay for the public services. It just taxes you the money to burn it, to create something called aggregate demand, and effectively to create a sink, as if in World of Warcraft when you go repair, the money just disappears in World of Warcraft when you go to repair or buy anything from a vendor that's like NPC. The money just disappears. So they conceptualize the economy like taxing is that for in this MMT conception, which is insane. Like then this is what like modern economy is structured around, this thesis of you have these sinks and faucets, and you move them around to to engineer the outcomes you desire. And they also see it as a part of a social engineering toolkit, wherein, if you need to create some kind of equity or redistribution, like you can achieve that.
That's the second time equity has come up tonight.
This
Sorry,
is the I know. This is the actual commie version of equity, wherein you create taxation points. You create taxation points where you need to or want to achieve desirable like social outcomes, right? And it's kind of insane, and it's part of the reason why everything is just going to get worse, because inflation is the primary mechanism action of basically the government funding itself is ultimately inflation, which is this sort of completely magical mechanism that is capable of reaching back through time and retroactively siphoning out your productivity. It's insane when you think about it. It's like the invention of an atomic bomb. Although inflation existed for thousands of years. That is the reason everything, like nothing will collapse. Like everything will just get gradually worse through these magical instruments.
This is I wish I had a great counter for optimism. Frankly, my brain is still like
fried. Yeah, I get it.
I'm still thinking like about the purpose of marriage in my head.
I do actually.
Okay.
I one of the things that exists now that didn't exist in a as powerful and mobile way when we look at crashes in the past is free market capitalism is a lot more powerful today than it has ever been on the face of this planet. And the one thing that the capitalists at the top need more than anything else is a consistent customer base. So if everything is continuing to devolve into a worse and worse situation, they're going to be shedding their customer base, and that's going to eventually take money away from the top, which is something that the people at the top view as, or should view, as a circumstance that cannot be allowed to happen. So In free market capitalism, you will see a release of money from the top to build up the bottom to make sure that the bottom doesn't slide out. Because once it slides out, your customers are gone and you can't make money anymore.
Quick final thought from you, RB, and then I'll let you go.
Yeah, I will. Well, in a more esoteric sort of opinion, is that free market capitalism hasn't existed for at least 100 years. But yeah, that's my final thought. It's just nothing to add there for now.
All right, thank you, RB. I appreciate your calls as always.
No problem. Bye.
Okay. Got a new caller here, Adelito. Sorry I made you wait about 1 million years to call in. I'm especially sorry to a new caller, but I appreciate your patience. What do you have for us?
So, to introduce myself, I'm actually from Tucson, Arizona, like my namesake. You didn't read the last name there.
Oh, I was like, this sounds familiar. Right. Adelito Gritardo. Okay, so this is a play on what's her face, the Congresswoman.
Yeah, Adelita Grijalva.
Yeah.
She went out there and pretended to get pepper sprayed.
Right.
I too have a weekly stop at Taco Hero. It's my favorite place to get steak tacos.
Wow. Okay, so you know the place.
Yeah. There's actually several locations, but I just went by one the day before they got raided, and it's sad to see that they're closed up right now. But it's probably a
the
good
steak
thing
tacos were that good, huh? You're sad about the closure?
Yeah. It's the only steak tacos I like.
Okay.
But it's probably a good thing because I don't need to give those guys my money if they're importing illegals and hiring them. But besides that, the reason I'm actually calling, it's about the Commerce Clause. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's been used for everything from gun control to minimum wage. And they always use the dumbest, most circuitous logic to get to these ends. It makes no sense. But if you pull up a map of like fuel prices across the US and you look at California, how it's dragging down the whole west of the US, like their fuel price is 443 and you look elsewhere it's 250 almost everywhere else. And that's just because they keep squeezing out the refineries, they won't let them open, they won't let them do business. Like this seems like an actual opportunity that hasn't presented itself in the past I don't know, 140 years for them to actually apply the Commerce Clause directly because California's over here screwing things up. I just want to get your thoughts on that.
I guess I hadn't thought about it in that context. I mean, I'm familiar with its application, like you said, in the context of gun control or how the federal government and its lawyers have used this as a legal rationale to regulate all sorts of stuff they want to, where it may, if people aren't familiar, the Commerce Clause gives Congress the authority to regulate interstate commerce. As far as what the intent was for that clause versus the interpretation, I'm not extremely educated on the originalist understanding of the Commerce Clause, but I highly doubt that just contextually, I highly doubt that its purpose was to give the federal government control of all the things it has inserted its tentacles into, because that would be contrary to, of course, the 10th Amendment and the general principles of federalism. But I haven't thought about it. I'm not even sure I understand completely. You're saying that the Commerce Clause should be applied to in the context of gas prices?
Well, yeah, because California is the place where all of the refining happens for the western part of the U.S.
So it's okay. So they have control of a lot of the production.
Right. And they keep squeezing these refineries out so they can't actually produce more fuel.
Got it.
And so if you look at like the map, like the whole west part of the U.S. is a giant red zone for fuel prices.
And so the Commerce Clause would be exercised in this context how? To tell California you can't regulate them in such a way, or what would its application be?
Yeah, that's what I would expect it would be used for. So if you look at Texas, what they're doing works great. The rest of the U.S., like from Texas spreading out to like Colorado and everywhere else, they all enjoy relatively low fuel prices.
Mm-hmm.
So it's apparent that there's nothing inherently wrong with what Texas and the rest of the country is doing. But then you look at California and they have these absurd environmental regulations they're using to squeeze out the refiners, shut everybody down, and basically wage war on fossil fuel. And this seems like an opportunity where the federal government could actually step in and say, hey, stop that.
Okay. I guess this is just not an area of constitutional law I've put a lot of thought to. That is to say, would it be constitutional or consistent with the originalist understanding of the Commerce Clause for them to do that? At the risk of sounding stupid, I kind of have to. I hate to cop out, but I'm just going to be guessing. Do you have a proposal that I could consider? I don't know what, other than just a federal law that says, if you're going to refine gasoline in your state, these are the rules and the regulations you're allowed to have. Is that what you're proposing? Or I guess I'm not totally clear what exactly you're asking me to evaluate or what the question would be.
I'm not sure that's it. I'm not exactly sure how California managed to get to this point.
Mm-hmm.
I know they have all kinds of exceptions and special privileges they've obtained from the EPA, and I suspect maybe that's where some of this nonsense comes from.
I mean, in general, my gut reaction is I hesitate to give the federal government regulatory power over much of anything, because power that is seemingly used for good is going to be used for not good tomorrow. And if California wants to be an idiot about how it produces fuel or anything else in their state, that's an opportunity for another state to produce it more cheaply, to grow industry there. Gut level, that would be my preferred resolution to that issue, rather than like the federal government bossing states around, because that never tends to work, in my opinion. But to your point, I guess I just don't know what the intended application of the Commerce Clause was. That's an area of constitutional law I'm not extremely familiar with.
So I would agree with that sentiment if possible. But a lot of the raw fuel precursors, what do they call it? Crude oil. It comes into ports. And like, I'm in Arizona, so I suffer from California's retardation just as much as California does. And it's frustrating. Like I mentioned,
maybe there should be some.
clause,
Maybe the answer is just rules on ports like that. Like, well, if you want the crude, you want the raw materials. California can't introduce barriers to other states accessing that, and they can refine it how they see fit.
Right. But it just seems to me like every time the Commerce Clause is being used, it's being used in a way that negatively affects basically the rest of the country. So gun control, that's one instance.
That's why we shouldn't expand its power, I guess.
Federal labor standards.
Anyway,
I always have some
quick final thought from you, and then I'll
reasoning.
have to let you go, but I appreciate your call.
Okay, yeah. So they always have just some kind of nonsense reasoning, and this seems like a rare occurrence where they might actually directly apply it. And then I guess on the way out, I'll tap the sign for you too.
Oh, no.
Yeah. So I'm actually getting married soon, and during marriage counseling, they made us write down our answers. And I think one of the questions was, what's your purpose for getting married? And my answer was to start a family. And then when she showed me her paper, hers was the same thing.
Bingo.
And yeah, you're spot on. That's the reason.
There you go, man. Family is the entire point. You don't have family without children. It ain't possible. Unless you're stealing them from somebody else. But someone made them, and that's the point. Anyway, appreciate you inviting the sign tap.
Don't make me tap the sign.
And congratulations, man. That's great. I'm really happy for you, and appreciate your call as well.
Thanks.
Have a great night.
You too.
And enjoy your steak tacos. Hopefully a legal person makes it next time.
Get closed.
Any thoughts you have on Commerce Clause stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a huge proponent of using the Commerce Clause to force California to refine more oil. Like that's a weird usage of it.
And point of fact, you're in California suffering under the thumb of that state. So if anyone's anti-California, it's probably you. But yeah,
I mean, as much as I would love to see the refined supply increase coming out of California, it would be nothing but good for California. It would be more money in our state. It'd be more jobs at the refineries. It would be nothing but a good situation for California. We'd be able to produce more gasoline for the states near us, which would lower fuel prices for the other states. So yeah, there's a lot of good that could come from it, but I don't agree with using the federal government to force California into doing that.
Appreciate all our live callers tonight. Thank you, guys. And as a reminder, if you'd like to call the show or leave a voicemail for the show or an email for the show, which we're going to get into now, you can do that through the contact page on my website, and we will take those messages right now. We got one voicemail, and as I mentioned, it's a little soft, so I'm going to boost it here, but you might have to bump it, Skulldugger. But this one is from our old friend, Mike DeWine, Shit-Eating Grin.
This is Mike DeWine, Shit-Eating Grin. I know a lot of people are focused on Minnesota, what's happening there with the Somalis, and Maine, I believe it is as well. But I believe people need to also keep an eye on Ohio, namely Columbus, namely the west side of Columbus. Since the mid-90s, or whenever we pulled out of Somalia in the 90s, there's been an influx of Somalians. At one point, we were the largest population of them outside of Somalia themselves. That has been surpassed by Minnesota, but the current estimates give anywhere between 30 official and 60,000 by their own community numbers in one section of Columbus. So the amount of issues and fraud that is going on in Ohio as well is probably not nearly as bad, or maybe it's worse, and the governors of Ohio just have been better at hiding it or weaving it into their budget. You can look it up online. I don't have the name of it right in front of me. There are whole cottage industries of people who have turned into a multi-million-dollar industry to move Somalians and get them just moved into Columbus itself. So yeah, there's just no place that's safe anymore.
Well, thank you, Mike DeWine, Shit-Eating Grin. That name takes me back, so appreciate hearing from you. And hope you're doing well, my friend. And I don't know, I'll take everything you're saying about Ohio as true. Given your experience with that Shit-Eating Grin, you're probably correct. I don't know anything about Ohio. But one thing that I find very interesting about what's going on with the Somalis in Minneapolis, and of course before that there was the episode of they're eating the cats, they're eating the dogs, the Haitians in Ohio, and of course there's a giant Muslim population in Dearborn, Michigan, and that entire area of Michigan, and I don't know the history of this. I'm not even necessarily asking rhetorically because I'm not trying to lead people one way because I don't know the answer. But it does seem odd to me that there are these massive Muslim populations, African, Arab populations in the Midwest, Minnesota, Ohio, Michigan. I'm not saying it's impossible that could have been the voluntary selection of these communities for some reason. I just don't know why someone goes from, say, Mogadishu to Minneapolis if you're coming to the United States. Seems to me there are a lot of places in the United States with a climate, a style of life that is closer to the Horn of Africa than, say, like the Arctic or something like that. It just seems like an odd fit. And the reason I bring that up, I was talking with a friend who was making the case that all of this was intentional. Like the Somali stuff, that settlement started in the mid-90s as a result of the Somali Civil War. I don't know about the Haitians. I don't necessarily know the origin of the Muslim community in Michigan. But is there some kind of deliberate effort to resettle these people in these states? By that, I mean states that are sort of battleground edge states that maybe you push into a particular voting demographic or a voting column by mass resettlement of migrants there? I know this is not like a groundbreaking theory. Hey, I think they're bringing in the migrants to change the voting habits. Yeah, we've seen that for a long time. I'm just asking, was the market selection like extremely deliberate in that way? Like it was more specific than just let people into the country. It's like bring them to that spot, because if it's that spot, maybe the map shifts in just the way we need it to shift. it seems like the fit is unnatural, and there had to be a secondary reason why those markets were selected. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not coincidence. Like they didn't all just happen to end up there and create these whole neighborhoods of immigrant families. Like it's not an accident. So there's some sort of targeted reason why these types of pockets exist.
Well, thank you for the insight, Mr. Shit-Eating Grain. Appreciate it. And I also got a text from here from Aaron. I don't have the text of it handy to put on the screen, but Aaron texted the line and said, "Hey, Matt, I need to declare myself here through text. I'm Aaron. I've been a longtime patron of the show, 2016 era. Want to thank you and share your role, or want to thank you for hold on. Want to thank you for your share of the role in providing me with the perspective to see that there was more to life than I was shown. I'm recently married. After a few years of dating, COVID was a twat. Godspeed for people who were trying in that time. But I've got a baby due in the next several weeks. My question is, anything you can offer as wisdom after your 3 boys? Thanks, and always appreciate your content." Well, first of all, thank you for listening and supporting as long as you have. Congrats on the marriage. Congrats on the baby. Personally, very honored to know that I've played a role in you finding those things in your life. So thank you for that.
We love you. You're very special.
I'm being respectful, bitch.
I have the experience of 3 boys, and maybe the experience is particular to boys. I don't know. Maybe it's particular. I only know young. Careful. I only have the experience of raising young boys. I almost said I only know young boys. Like,
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
No, I'm not on the My Little Pony website. I've only raised, my oldest boy is 4 years old, so I only have. I almost walked into it again. What I'm trying to say is, I don't think what I'm saying is particular to raising younger kids or raising boys. I think it probably applies to girls and older kids too. But the great thing about parenthood that I wish I knew, it's not like I've made a big mistake. Oh man, I would change everything I did. I don't have advice like that. But one thing that is so clear is your children are a mirror. They observe and repeat everything that you do. Even when you think you're speaking in code and they don't understand you, or even when you think you're like being sly and they don't know what you're doing, they know. They are a mirror. They will repeat the behavior. You'll see them do it. Or if you're like me, your wife will tell you, "Hey, I heard your oldest son do the same thing and make the same kind of joke that you make," even though it wasn't that bad of a joke. It wasn't that inappropriate. But you realize, like, man, I really got to watch myself, because your children are God's enforcers in that way. They repeat back to you. They are your mirror. They show you all the things that you do, they start doing. And so they really force you to question, am I living my life the way that I would want my son to live his life, or my daughter to live her life? Am I being the sort of man I would want my daughter to find in the future? Those sorts of questions. And the crazy thing about parenthood, obviously you raise your kid, you guide your kid, your job is to make the world navigable for your children. But in that way, your children, it sounds so hippie, like such hippie bullshit, but they raise you too, because they hold you to the highest possible standard. You see your flaws emerging in them. You see the behaviors that you do emerging in them, and you think, my God, I was the example that created that. And it holds you to a higher level of accountability as a parent, as a man, in the same way that you're trying to hold them to a level of accountability, at least that's appropriate for their age. So to bring it back to the point, what is the advice? They're always watching. Our youngest boy is not even 3 months old, and he was in his little swing, and we thought he was kind of napping away. But just this morning, we're doing our middle son's birthday stuff, and my wife and I are just kind of waving at him. He starts moving his hand. He starts responding. And we did it multiple times. Like he's not even 3 months old, and he's responding to our cues and our input, which means what? Even that little baby brain of his, he's taking in everything that mom and dad are doing, and he's learning what, in his mind, normal or good behavior is. So you will forever be a role model in that way. There are no days off. When you think they aren't looking, they are. They're always watching. They're always recording. They're always reproducing what you do. So even when they're a little infant in the swing and you think they're just enjoying a bottle or, whatever, and they're about to take a nap. No, they're watching and they're recording. So I feel like more disciplined by my own children than by my parents in that way, if that makes sense. Not that my parents didn't discipline me or didn't expect, me to follow the rules. They did. But I feel like the level of accountability that your children hold you to is something entirely different. So be prepared for that and just know that little recording device is always on. You never escape it.
Yeah.
And Godspeed. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, my main piece of advice, this is something I've been telling people who are about to get into the parenthood game, is your life is over. Your life officially ends once that child is born and a new life starts for you. You become a different person. So the old you is gone. Like, you will not be that person anymore. So, but you will find a better version of yourself as you learn to engage this new mechanism, because it's in there. It's in you. You have it in you. You know how to be a parent. You know what is going to be best for your children. And as you start to develop that muscle, you will start to find out that you were capable of way more than you thought you ever were.
That's a great way of putting the ultimate challenge that it is. Oh, you thought you were tired? You thought you were at your wit's end? You thought you didn't? Guess what? You do have more in there because you have to have more in there. You think about the greatest coaches get the most out of you by yelling in your face, run faster, jump higher. It's not like your kids do that to you, but they just have an inherent force about them that has an effect like that times a million. So, yeah, well put. Okay, let's get into our email questions. Thanks to our voicemail caller and our texter there. I actually have another text question in a minute, but it was related to some email questions, so I just dropped it in here. So let's get into those email questions. And by the way, Super Chatters, I appreciate you. I'll get to you momentarily. I know you guys have been waiting a million years too, so I don't mean to push you guys on. I just clearly, anybody calls in and they're like, hey, it's sign tapping time. You might as well count it as a 4-hour show at that point. That's just the way it's going to be. PC Fugno? Does this guy prefer Mac or what? Is that what that's? I don't know what PC Fugno is. Anyway, good evening, Matt. I've been trying to reach a conclusion regarding why not one politician has said anything about holding back public benefits until the recipient provides proof of citizenship. If we stop the flow of money to illegals, won't a lot of them just leave? So far, the top reason I can see is it would take money out of the politicians' pockets or their campaign funds. Do you see any other reason why they would oppose this? And as always, keep working harder than an ugly stripper. Well, I like to think we are at least moderately attractive strippers around here, metaphorically speaking. But yeah, to your question.
Bingo.
I think the courtship of immigrant votes or illegal immigrant votes, immigrants in general, as we were just talking about in the context of the Midwestern influx, deliberate political plan there. Import voters, not all are going to vote. Some aren't eligible to vote, but a lot will vote in one way or another. And that is going to benefit the Democrat Party and the people who designed this scheme. And I also agree that welfare programs are going to attract not just the immigrants, but attract the potential votes of those immigrants. I don't see why anyone would oppose citizenship checks for benefits. If they don't, obviously the question is why. You'd have to ask it. However, I would point out, as a technical matter, a lot of these programs already restrict illegal immigrants or non-citizens by design. I know that's not how it plays out a lot of the time, but strictly speaking, illegal immigrants are not eligible for healthcare benefits. Some states have found some workarounds for that. Food stamps, likewise, are not available to illegal immigrants, even though many people have cracked that puzzle too. A lot of the times, it's less about the law as written, more about state administration. Like we've seen with California's commercial driver's licenses and the problem of Indian truck crashes and all that. And sometimes it's just done by fraud or theft. Like someone has a social security number that's not theirs and the whole application is fraudulent. They're just lying about who they are. the solution then, I guess, would be like some sort of federal government program or federal government department that would be the gatekeeper on these benefit programs. Let me back up. If we grant the premise that the federal government should be involved in this welfare distribution at all, which is a big if to me, like a big question to ask. I don't really think it should be doing that. You leave it to the states. But okay, we're going to keep the federal benefit status quo, things like food stamps, things like Medicaid, and all the rest. To take the flawed administration away from the states and put it in the hands of the federal government, you'd have to have something like a welfare TSA that does this sort of check. Maybe you could do something like that. I think the more realistic solution to the problem is just the federal government doesn't do these welfare programs. There ain't no citizenship to check if there's no welfare program that needs distribution in the first place. I grant that that's probably unrealistic in terms of what is actually possible to pass in Congress. In that situation, you just leave the welfare programs up to the states. And if you're still worried like, oh, well, then California's still going to give benefits to illegal immigrants or whatever other state might, their state is on the hook for that now, not you. But if you don't want that, obviously, like, why do we share a country if just anybody can come in and join that state and get benefits even in that state? Maybe you leave the state welfare programs up to the states, but you pass some kind of federal law that says, yeah, states can do whatever welfare programs they want. You just can't award benefits to illegal immigrants. And if we find that you are, we're going to take you to court. We're going to put a stop to that because we have legal authority under federal law to do that. I think that's probably how you solve that problem. Ideally is like, I guess that's my solution. No federal welfare, send it to the states, and the federal government says no benefits for illegals or non-citizens. And if we catch you doing it, then we send Pam Bondi after you, and she's going to get you, just like she gets everyone. You got any thoughts on that?
I don't necessarily know that cutting off the benefits is going to spark like a mass exodus anyway. So it might be a little bit of a flawed premise. I think it's nice. It's a nice benefit that they can get these public funds in these fraudulent ways. But I think even if you were able to turn off that tap, I think a lot of them would say it's still better to sort of squat here in the United States than to go back to their country of origin.
Yeah,
so I don't know that's going to flush a whole bunch of people out.
Yeah, I think even proponents for this would probably agree with the premise. This is not necessarily about. You might get some self-deportations, but it's probably unlikely to solve the problem of the people who are here. It's just how can you reduce the incentives for the people who might come tomorrow?
Yeah, that's true.
At this point, though, hey, we already got like 30 million, 50 million. What's 50 million and one? Join the club, Jorge. They got awesome steak tacos down in Tucson. Have at it. What do I care? Jasmine Crockett's going to win Texas. This country's over. I don't even have anything left to defend at this point. All right. A mom says on Wednesday, Batman opined on who has the most culpability following an abortion. I want to share my experience with those early doctor appointments. I'm currently pregnant with baby 4. I was offered termination last week at my first prenatal appointment. All of my kids have been healthy and normal. I'm married, stable, normal age, no issues. Every pregnancy, I've been asked if I want to continue the pregnancy. I was offered this twice with my eldest child. When the doctor found out, I was not excited about the pregnancy. I wasn't disappointed. I was just sick. I was scared. I was anxious. First-time moms tend to be. I think some of this is due to the crazy liberal area I live in. Some of it is due to the insurance I'm stuck with in a liberal network. But if I, as a married, stable, loudly pro-life mom of 3, already and obviously excited for number 4, is still offered abortion, I can only imagine the pressure put on a woman struggling or someone who's wishy-washy in their beliefs. Ultimately, every mom's first responsibility is to protect her babies, although some might dispute that premise. Anyway, she will answer to God for the choices she makes, but those OBs have to be held to higher standards. I don't know for sure, but I think the network's policy is to offer abortion at the beginning of prenatal care. That is my experience anyway. All right. First of all, congratulations on your pregnancy and your growing family. But to some extent, my wife and I have had the same experience. Not quite to the degree that you're talking about, but at least when we had our first son, Calvin, I remember one of the early doctor appointments, and they offered that genetic testing where you can not only learn the baby's gender fairly early, but they'll tell you if your child has any potential genetic defects. Now, we've always opted against that because I just view it as like there's only scares that can come from that. And for the sort of the reasons you're talking about, that what information would I get that would change my calculation anyway? But the doctor said, when we were asked about getting some of that testing, said something to the effect of, it may inform any decisions you make. And I was like, okay, whatever. I'm not interested in fighting these doctors on the spot. But I'm thinking in my head, what the hell information are you going to give me that is going to make me kill my kid intentionally, doc? Ain't nothing you can tell me that is going to cause me to reach a decision that murder is the appropriate response. So let's just cut the bullshit right there. But to the point that you're making, and this doctor, in fairness to this doctor, she didn't say, if this condition arises, you should get an abortion. She just said that it's information that may be useful to you. I dispute the usefulness of that information because I don't think the decision that she's talking about is a valid one. I would not say there was pressure applied on us in any way to get an abortion. That would be an unfair characterization, but the discussion was had. To your point on who is culpable for abortion, if I consider it to be an act of murder, and I do, I don't know how you can call that life any different from any other human life that is deserving of protection and shouldn't be killed for no justification at all. So if it's murder, who's culpable for the murder? I would say it's the person who takes the action of the murder. In most contexts, that's going to be the clinical personnel who actually do it, whether it's a doctor or whoever the medical person is at this clinic who does the act of extinguishing that life. I would be less inclined to say that the mom who makes the decision is as culpable as the person who commits the act, unless mom committed the act in the old school, coat hanger method or whatever, unless mom did it herself. If I treat it like murder in any other context, you go to the person who did the act. Maybe others are culpable as some sort of accessory. That's possible. But the person primarily responsible to me is the person who commits the act. I had not thought at all about this sort of kind of pressure angle, though. And I definitely take your point that women, generally in their nature, not all, but more so than men, tend to be anxious, tend to be worried, tend to be more easily influenced by the input of, say, perceived professionals like doctors or medical personnel. And if there's even a whiff of push in one direction, I certainly grant your point that there could definitely be some culpability there in terms of the convincing aspect, the advocacy aspect that goes into abortion. But Skulldugger, you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I generally hold the doctors to be more culpable. It's their practice. They're the ones who are actually benefiting financially from it as well. So if you're tracking it down from who has the most to gain from this, and especially if you're trying to root it out from society, if you go after the doctors, then there won't be anybody left to perform the abortion. So even if somebody were interested in seeking one, there wouldn't be a market in which they could find one. But I do still, I don't have as much sympathy for the pressure argument. If you got pressured into participating in a murder and being a party to a murder, I don't think it limits your culpability because somebody pressured you into it. You still made a series of decisions.
I wouldn't say limits the culpability of the person who did it. I would say added culpability for the person who advocated it. That would be the way I would frame it.
Sure.
So it'd be like an additional charge for that person as an accessory rather than like, oh, it was murder, but like kind of in a more understandable version, That's probably how I'd handle it. But
understandable murder. That's I don't want to get too far into that conversation.
Yeah. You get what I mean. A lower grade, like something with a mitigating factor. Yeah. Ray cyst. All right, Ray. In American, it seems like Ray is pretty cyst here, given the question. In American Christian culture, many Christians are more offended by the use of the N-word, which he clarified with the full 6-word spelling. I had to asterisk it, than they are by people using the Lord's name in vain. From this, it can be concluded that having this perspective means one respects blacks more than one respects God. Well, It is hard to argue the point because saying it will get you fired from Cinnabon.
You are a
That is true. And if you said, God damn it at Cinnabon, I doubt you're going to get fired. You might get maybe get written up for some unprofessional language around customers or something like that. But you're not going to get fired in the same way. So I certainly grant the point that the word, the N word, is treated. I don't know if I would say it's respected more. It's like the treading is lighter around the N word than taking the Lord's name in vain, for sure. And I say that as someone who definitely should clean up my language in many aspects, including taking the Lord's name in vain if I'm serious about honoring God. I get that. I'm not, I'm a party to this sort of culture, even if I agree with you that it's absurd. But I don't think it's a function of respect, even though it kind of appears that way. Like you respect this racial justice God more than you actually respect God himself. I think it's more just fear of the consequences. As a culture, you're right. The fact of the matter is there are higher consequences for uttering the N-word than taking the Lord's name in vain. I don't think it's a respect thing for people, even people of Christian faith. I think it's just, I know that one of these is going to ruin my life and the other is going to get me tisk-tisked. That might be backward. That might be upside down. That might be wrong. I agree with your premise there. I just think people are more fearful of the consequences than they are like worshiping the racial justice God. At least I hope. I hope that's why we're seeing the effect that you're talking about. Because I don't dispute the effect. I just don't know if it's like a sincere respect thing.
I don't know. I mean, KTLA never tweeted out, God damn it.
They wouldn't dare. They
wouldn't dare. I actually kind of have probably an unpopular take on the Lord's name in vain.
Go on.
I consider that to be an iffy translation of what the Bible is actually even talking about in that instance. It's actually kind of by knocking it down to something as simplistic as saying something like "God damn it," like, "Oh, you took the Lord's name in vain." That's not really what the passage is talking about. When it says "take the Lord's name," the verb that it's using for "take" it means more like wear. It's or like carry with you the Lord's name. So it's actually more of a behavioral modifier. You shouldn't. It's telling people who are designating themselves as followers of God, followers of Christ, if that's your public sort of image and you are putting that out there as a moniker for yourself, you're calling yourself Christian, and you are not honoring that title with your behavior, that is taking the Lord's name in vain, because you are wearing the Lord's name in a way that is not glorifying and is not giving a good example. So It's actually it's actually heavier. It's actually a harder thing. It's really easy to just not say "God damn it." That's a very easy thing to do. But I don't think I don't think I don't think God is actually that offended by the
I hope not. He
phrase.
seems pretty cool. Big fan of his work, so hopefully we'd get along.
I think he's more offended by people who claim to be his followers and then go and live a lifestyle as if they weren't.
Yeah, so there's like a fraudulent component of it or something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, all right. What about taking the N-word in vain? Does that same principle apply? Those who claim to live an N-wordly life but do not, in fact, they are fake ass N's. I don't know.
I think that's actually okay. I think that's actually. I think that
there are a lot of rap songs about that, calling out those fake ass N's. But
oh yeah.
Thank you to Ray Sist. Be humble. If I were to design a citizenship system from scratch, I think I would do the opposite of what Mark said on Sunday. I would give no one citizenship at birth and make it something that must be earned by demonstrating that you are of value to the country. People who are not net contributors get no vote. Single people who own no land and have no children get no vote. Citizenship can be stripped if someone is shown to be a net drain on the country over a period of a few years. No one gets birthright citizenship at all. So I'm still not entirely clear about Mark's proposal. I don't want to mischaracterize it. I know he and I have talked about it once or twice. The idea, as I understand it, is that citizenship is determined by your ancestors' citizenship or your ancestors' presence. That's how you get citizenship in a country. The one thing I don't necessarily understand about it is like what happens when the country is taken over and there's like the first generation of a new country. What are the rules for that? Again, I don't know Mark's entire framework here, but I know it's largely a function of your parents were citizens here, therefore you are a citizen here is the idea, something to that effect. What Be Humble is saying is that nobody should have that right. You should have to, that citizenship should be something that is earned through contribution to that particular society. And I actually agree with this principle, although I don't know if I would characterize it as citizenship or just voting rights. Or voting rights over, say, lawful or rightful presence in the country, maybe. The idea that everybody is entitled to vote when many of them don't have any skin in the game, many of them are drains in the way that you're talking about, many of them have built absolutely nothing. The idea that everybody is entitled to a vote in that way is destructive. It's two wolves and a sheep voting for what's for dinner. It's voting to take from people who have built something. That's what we're seeing in practice now. People who don't build, people who aren't productive, given the same say as the people who are, and shockingly, they vote to take the product of the people who make it. That's a problem. It's going to lead to destruction over time. As an alternative system, if that right to vote is earned, you've built something. You've established a family, you've built a prosperous business, you've done something that contributes to society. Once you've built something, you have something to protect. You've demonstrated that productivity. Your voting is going to change because you're no longer a taker. You're a producer. You have something to protect. You understand that society doesn't function when it's just a bunch of people voting to take stuff from the people who make stuff. If you have some sort of criteria that say, once you have reached X threshold of contribution or productivity, you have earned the right to vote. That to me makes a lot of sense. And so I don't know if I'd frame it as citizenship as just the voting right, but and I don't know what Mark's response would be on that either. In fact, I'd be interested to hear how these two things collide, because I know that you're saying it's the opposite of what Mark said on Sunday, and framed this way, it might be that he says it's automatic given X piece, and you're saying nothing is automatic, you have to earn it. I suspect Mark might have a fair amount of agreement with the general principles here. I think that maybe the two ideas might kind of overlap and there'd be interaction between them. But anyway, Skulldugger, what do you think about the idea of isn't that the Starship Troopers thing? Service guarantees citizenship? Yeah.
Yep. That's exactly what I was going to say. It's like, sounds rather Heinlein. I don't really think that necessarily citizenship or voting should be rights. I think they are privileges that should be granted by the state. The state should decide who is a citizen, and the state should decide who is allowed to vote. Like I'm actually in favor of heavily restricting the franchise. I think expanding the franchise and making it a right is actually a huge mistake, especially when you look at things like a Pareto distribution. So if you're talking about like 80% of the production of a society is done by 20% of the people, but if you're expanding the franchise so that everybody gets to vote, then the people who are actually doing the things aren't getting the requisite vote. And so like I would actually restrict voting to landowners first of all, like primarily. Like if you don't own land, there's no reason why I think you should be voting. It's an indication that you probably are not productive enough in society. You've probably not yielded back enough to society if you've not.
You also don't necessarily have a tie to that place. You don't have an inherent investment in it.
Yeah. I don't remember. I was going to go somewhere else, but no, I don't remember.
I think it was the purpose of marriage. I think that's where you're going.
Yes, exactly.
No. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. If the thought comes back to you, interrupt me and we'll return to it. But Thank you, Be Humble. Not Somalian. Are there any crimes which we have several death penalty questions, so that's why I lumped these together. Are there any crimes which do not result in the death penalty? Are there any crimes which do not result in the death of a person that you think would be morally deserving of the death penalty? Before I get into this, Skulldugger, have we talked death penalty before?
I don't think we have.
Okay. Can I get a quick, just a couple sentence summary of your position on it?
Sure. In principle, I'm in favor of capital punishment, but in actuality, I don't trust any state on the face of the planet to have that power over its people. So
okay, so that kind of was my former position. I've since changed a little bit, and now I'm definitely Fry the Pedo's perspective. But no, I've come around a little bit, and but maybe we can talk about that in a moment, because a lot of these questions apply. So your position, if I understand, is there is a such thing as a just death penalty. We just can't achieve it reliably. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as a state puts a single innocent person to death using the death penalty, then it is grounds for revoking that state's right to ever do that again.
So we are operating within the realm that there is a such thing as a just death penalty if it could be achieved, and that's really where this question fits. Are there any crimes which do not result in the death of a person that you think would be morally deserving of the death penalty? So
yes,
yeah. I mean, like I'm saying, with my own perspective here, I used to think exactly what you said. That we shouldn't entrust this sort of power to the state. I've changed on that. So I'm operating in the realm of there is a such thing as a just death penalty, and it would be correct or just for the state to enforce it, to enact it. But we're talking about, if I were to list the crimes that should be eligible, and I haven't put a ton of thought to this, but certainly the taking of a life, like you say, murder, intentional taking of a life without justification. Treason is on there, and treason, I think, if treason is going to be punishable by death, the theory of it is that it is a betrayal of country that creates lethal risk or risk for the survival of your country itself. That's the thinking on treason, if I was going to put treason on the list. And frankly, I'm going to put treason on the list. Rape.
Yes.
Would you put rape on the list? Okay.
Absolutely.
To me, and certainly aggravated violent rapes, rape of children. But if there's anything as close to the taking of a life that is not the actual taking of a life, it would be that sort of sexual violation. And certainly people who are repeat offenders in that regard, I don't think that there should be repeat offenders insofar as if you did it once, you need to be locked away for a long, long time. But let's say a person goes on a spree or something like that. They do it many times before they're caught, that sort of idea. Those would probably be the extent of the crimes on my list. But what's the general philosophy for me that informs or defines how these crimes are selected? It's anything that is the taking of someone else's life, like you're saying, not Somalian, or nearly taking someone's life if you keep doing it, or you're doing it on very serious intentional terms. That's how I arrived at that list. But I don't feel like that's a great defining principle. Do you feel like if you grant the premise that there are crimes justly punishable by death, what is the defining principle of those crimes?
Yeah, that's tricky, because I think you'd have to define it along the lines of the overall impact on society. So that's like why murder is an easy one, because like if the sanctity of life isn't protected by society, then what's the point of protecting anything?
Yeah.
So I think it's the things that cut against having a peaceful society, anything that disturbs the social order. So like not putting
lots of stuff does that, though. And we got
not putting your shopping cart away.
Okay, thank you. Yes, those people. Yeah. I don't even need a trial. Okay, just show me a video on social media. Done.
Yep.
Yeah. I found one of those sons of bitches the other day, and frankly, anytime I roll up to a grocery store and I see one of those shopping carts off in the wilderness of the parking lot, just waiting for a gust of wind to blow it into someone's pristine door panel on their car, I feel talk about how earlier how there's no like Iwo Jima moment anymore. Like the coming collapse is going to be a bunch of scams on the internet. There's not going to be a moment of glory. You want to talk about patriotic moments of civic duty? Every time I return one of those carts, I feel like Washington crossing the Delaware. Look at the service I am doing to my country by correcting this act of barbarism that this son of a bitch who left his shopping cart free in the parking lot because he couldn't be bothered. I don't know. Do you feel like you have a sense of civic pride when you are returning the shopping cart to the corral in that way?
No, I mean, I don't give it that, because I think it's downright shameful for anybody who does it. So, I mean, I think it's basic humanity. Like I think it's like one of the basic tests of, are you a functional human in society? Like if you don't return the shopping cart to either the storefront or at the very least the trough in the middle of the parking lot, you don't even have to leave the parking lot in most places, then get out of here. We don't need you in society. You shouldn't be voting, even if you own land, and we should be able to put you to death.
Okay. Maybe it's a somewhat incomplete discussion of not Somalians' question, but that would be my list, and I'll have to think a little bit harder on the defining principle. But producer Tim also has a question about the death penalty. Following on that previous question, we've seen, or following up on a previous question about the death penalty, we've seen unjust lawfare against January 6ers. Trump and some of his associates, just to name a few examples, you seem to have expressed a growing, if still reluctant, support for the death penalty for certain crimes. But given examples of deliberate injustices, such as the ones I've mentioned, do you think we should really empower the state with control over life and death? Okay, so this is the heart of the question that we were just talking about. Here's what changed my mind on the death penalty. Again, as someone who used to think exactly what you're talking about, that there are crimes that are justly punished by death, but the state is not trustable with that sort of power. Yeah, okay, so let's start from that premise that we've talked about. Are there such things as crimes that are justly punishable by death? Yes, we agree on that. See the previous list. If it is justice to bring death for those crimes, don't we have a duty to seek that justice? And I think we do. The decision on the end of a life, that is the death penalty, is a major one, but I don't necessarily see it in the hands of the state way that I used to, because I don't think that the government itself is the executioner in that way. It's a jury of peers. I know that not all juries are awesome. I know they're not all great. I know some of them are biased. I know many of them come with their own agendas, but we do have the protection of a jury of peers, not a government executioner in that way. We have a long appeal process to make sure that the decision is correct. And I also am not sure that I actually stand on the principle of the government should not be put in the position of life and death decisions. Now, I'm not saying that's your position, Skulldugger. You might choose to refine that a little bit, but that's kind of how I viewed that framework previously. The government shouldn't be making these life and death decisions. Well, every cop carries a gun. Why? To make life and death decisions. The entire military has a giant pile of guns. Why? To make life and death decisions. That is to say, really inherently in the concept of government, there are life and death decisions to be made, and those are much more direct. Like the police officer's finger on the trigger is the government execution that I'm fearing, whereas trial by jury, I'm not really sure is. That's an evaluation of the evidence. The power is decentralized among 12 people. I think that's a much more fair application of the life and death decision than just a cop pointing a gun. As always, tools are necessary. The proper tools are necessary for jobs. You just have to be careful about applying the right tool for the job. I think the death penalty is treated very carefully, and it should be. How is it treated very carefully? It's reserved for only select crimes, like we're talking about. It's January 6th. Yeah, there were abuses there. Was anybody... unless they wanted to do some kind of like treason execution, maybe, I don't know. But there was no attempt at executions on January 6th. No one was really eligible because the death penalty is reserved only for certain crimes.
Yeah, I don't think that was his point. I think he was just saying that the government overstepped its delegated authority in order to guarantee the convictions. I don't think and Tim can correct me if I if I'm not understanding this correctly. But I don't think I don't think he's equating that they were trying to apply death penalty to Jan 6ers. But what he's saying is that the state was able to move in a way that it wasn't supposed to be able to. It was able to actually move beyond its delegated authority and move against these people for a political outcome rather than one of justice. And if the state is powerful enough to do that, and you're saying that you're going to give this exact same entity the power to take human life, then what is stopping them from abusing their power in that same way?
The limitations that apply to the death penalty that don't necessarily apply to January 6th. The definition of the crime. Now, so the crimes are constrained. Now, I know that the trial by jury is the same in the January 6th context as it would be in the context of a murder trial or a death penalty case, except that oftentimes the death penalty also requires a unanimous jury to apply that penalty. There are multiple layers of restriction, protection on the death penalty that don't necessarily apply in other criminal punishment contexts. So for that reason, I'm actually increasingly satisfied that the protections against mistakes are sufficient if we grant that some crimes not only are eligible for death as a matter of justice. To me, it's if that is a just outcome, we have a duty to pursue it. And if that just outcome is taken off the table, there's injustice in that case, in that we are treating people who've committed very serious crimes too lightly. We're not treating the crime itself seriously. We're guaranteeing injustice in that we've taken the appropriate penalty off the table.
So
I know your counter.
I could grant that, and that's a valid point to bring up, is the protecting against injustice. But that argument presupposes that other forms of punishment would not also be considered just, and so that's presupposing that death is the only just outcome, and that
not only
life imprisonment wouldn't be. So because other forms of punishment can be considered just, then I think you can still apply justice. I just don't think it's as just. That is to say, if like there's a guy who was like, you know what, F it, I'm going on a child rape and murder spree, and I'm streaming it all live to Facebook, and I'm telling you exactly. Now I know that's an extreme example, but what I'm saying is, if ever there was a crime that not just is eligible for death as a matter of justice, but requires it, insofar as life in prison is insufficient for the absolute insanity that guy just perpetrated, it is unjust. There are certain cases that require the death penalty as a matter of justice, and that's why I want to leave it on the table. Yeah. I mean, one of my issues is with saying that the courts and having a trial is an adequate safeguard, is that trials get it wrong. Juries, as you were saying, are not perfect. We have an appeals process for a reason, is because courts get things wrong. And so it is for me, it is more unjust to have the state execute an innocent person than the alternative of somebody who was deserving of being put to death getting some other form of punishment.
Yeah, I mean, the more I think about that perspective, which again is what I used to believe, so I'm not even dismissing it. I don't know that I necessarily grant the premise. That is to say, like, even if the ratio was like 100 proper executions to 1 mistake, it's not that ratio. It's much, much higher. Like, how many people are actually improperly executed? Do we have like an accounting of that?
No.
I think that the volume of injustice for letting those who categorically deserve death escape it, I actually think is a greater injustice than the hypothetical of the wrongly killed man. I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm not saying it's impossible. Clearly, we're human beings. We make mistakes. But I just think that the volume of mistakes for people who are deserving of death as a justice is like kind of built into the system of removing the death penalty from the table. Whereas injustice in the context of the wrongful execution, while very serious, if it happens, is not built into the concept. That would be an extreme outlier, as far as I'm aware, an almost never event. The injustice that we're talking about by removing the death penalty is a guarantee insofar as if we expect people to commit very heinous crimes, which they always do. They find a way. They do terrible things. But anyway, I don't think, like I said, I am fresh off thinking exactly what you're saying. So I don't think it's objectionable in any way, or like I think you're way off or something like that. Nick from Virginia sends a text question on the same theme. Do you believe there is a level of, this is an interesting question. Do you believe there is a level or number of petty crimes that could be or should be, or could or should potentially warrant the death penalty? So for context, he linked a New York Times article. I'll grant this is true. I'm sure it's probably accurate. 300 people committed a third of all the shoplifting in New York City, a giant city, the biggest city in the country. A third of the stealing is the responsibility or the action of 300 people in a city of like 10 million or something. Okay, if these people are committing crimes with such regularity, they will evidently not be rehabilitated, and removing them from the population, that seems like a responsible thing to do. So without putting a ton of thought to what exactly my philosophy is on what defines the crimes that are eligible, I'm pretty hesitant on this one, because I think my philosophy is something to the effect of the removal of a life, or the, right on that line of a very serious threat to the life. Property crimes are very serious. They should be treated seriously. I am not diminishing them in any way. These people do need to be removed from society, but to the extent, even though their behavior is repeated, it has not directly threatened life, I would be very hesitant to say that the appropriate removal for them is executing them straight up. I think the appropriate removal for them is imprisonment, and they can think a long time about what they've done. But I know that sounds like wasteful in terms of our resources. Or number one, it respects the principle that life is deserving of respect in that way. Number two, isn't there a way to get productivity out of our prisons? Can't you still? I know there's I don't know what the legality of that is. Like, what counts as slave labor and what is justifiable in terms of a criminal penalty. So don't confuse me with saying we should be soft on these people. I agree, and they got to be removed from society, and they're not. I hesitate based on the principles I'm trying to define here of a threat to life, or like an action of taking a life, or right up on the line of taking a life. I just don't think this fits that framework. Maybe the compromise I was thinking is what my dad says. They don't deserve to be killed, but you got to treat theft more seriously. Every time you're caught stealing, you just cut off a finger, and eventually they will bleed out. And if they bleed out, that's their fault. That's not state execution. That's just they couldn't stop stealing. Your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't like the death penalty for, like, if it's a routine shoplifter. I'm actually okay with them just continuing to recycle in and out. I'm very opposed to three strikes laws. I think all three strikes laws that I've ever seen implemented have been unconstitutional. Some even having been declared unconstitutional. The vast majority of them violate both the Fifth and Eighth Amendment. So I'm not a fan of violating people's civil liberties. So if in your state or in your jurisdiction, the penal code that you are under says that this crime is eligible for this punishment, and you have taken that into consideration, and you have said that it's still worth it to commit that crime, if that's what the state is saying is the punishment for that crime, then that is essentially a contract that you have between the state and that person committing the crime. So if the punishment is 3 months in jail for this particular theft, and you just keep doing that, and you just keep serving your 3 months, then that's essentially an agreement that you have between that person and the state. If you want to increase the amount of time they're spending in jail, then you have to increase the penalty for shoplifting. But as long as it remains that low, that somebody can commit regular shoplifting and just go in and out of jail, then that's a problem with the way that the law is set up.
Well, Thank you for your thoughts on that. Thank you to our emailers and our callers and everybody who contributes to the show. As a reminder, if you'd like to leave an email, voicemail, text message, contribute to the show that way, head on over to the contact page of my website, mattchristiansenmedia.com/contact. We appreciate your contributions to the show. Appreciate our super chatters too. And by the way, we're pushing a 3-hour show right now, and I got to talk to our super chatters. So we're looking at 4 hours, like I said, with the marriage purpose discussion. Really appreciate you, super chatters. Appreciate your patience, and appreciate you, Skulldugger. If you need a bathroom break or something, you just say the word. We'll be through this hopefully in short order here. But Long Dong John, that emailer from last week whose sister has knowingly dated a convicted pedophile was nuts. It does make a good case for getting wood chippers in the merch store. Yeah, I haven't worked. I don't know a good supplier on wood chippers. Yeah. Without going through all the details on that, if people didn't listen to last week's show, go back to the email section on last week's show, and there was just it was a question about how to handle that situation with appropriate restraint, if any restraint is warranted. Guy's sister's dating a convicted pedophile who had the commentary was, "Don't worry, your kids aren't his type."
That was terrible. That was, the sister is just as bad at that point. That you can't say that. Like, that's not a
worried about the sister for sure.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Long Dong John. Joshy boy, the only thing that scares me about Jasmine Crockett is all that weave in her hair. Well, she does have fantastic weaves, and it's a shame Marjorie Taylor Green is retiring or resigning, because I thought we were finally going to get the fist fight on the House floor where the weave is ripped off and Marjorie Taylor Green grabs those eyelashes, and they finally settle their feud, but won't see it, at least for now. Producer Tim, fun fact, Jasmine Crockett was tricked into running for the Senate by Republicans. They added her name to polls and encouraged people to contact her office to basically astroturf so-called quote-unquote support for her Senate run. Absolute weaponized trolling. I hadn't seen that angle on it, and frankly, I could believe that her ego is so large that there was no trolling necessary. But when she says, "Oh, they're encouraging me to run, they're baiting me to run," yeah, that's because they know. I'm sure there was probably that sort of effort, because it was late too. To Tim's point, she's late in the game to enter. This primary is going to be in the spring here. That's going to be the campaign season, so she's late, and it implies that something changed late to change her mind. Was it trolling? Was it the guy dropping out? Something did it. Joshy Boy also says, can confirm that bronies do outnumber female fans of the show, as in the My Little Pony show. There was an entire YouTube documentary about it. Could believe. 1983 Bantam. A week ago, I said cuck-servatives were dumb for not realizing Venezuela's about oil and got called a Democrat. Today, Trump seizes an oil tanker. I don't know all the details on the oil tank. Did you see that in the news today? What happened?
I saw it. I didn't have time to look into it, but I saw the headline.
Yeah, and Bantam, to your point, like, I don't necessarily have the same concerns about the drug boat strikes that I know were controversial last week. However, I definitely would not be a fan of getting involved in Venezuela, trying to do regime change in Venezuela. And I hope that's not the direction that we're taking. And, if you're right about that, and we're straight to ousting Maduro, which we're probably already doing, there's a bunch of CIA guys hanging out doing that right now. But if we're doing that certainly on more traditional military terms, like what we saw in Iraq or something like that, not good. And we should oppose that. But when it happens, Lindsey Graham will be praised as the new face of MAGA once again, I suppose. Tortuga. Skulldugger needs to wipe his hard drive. You're probably on a list now. I think he means from looking at all the Brony pictures, right?
Yeah.
Joshy Boy also says, man, got a lot to say today. Well, you can say it next time you're on. To refuse to have children is to rebel against Yahweh's command to be fruitful and multiply. That is the primary function of marriage. Well, thank you. Appreciate that. And no, that's it on that. Okay. But yeah, I agree. I don't understand the perspective that the children are. I guess if I could summarize the opposition I've received, which again, frankly, it has been one of the more confusing aspects of my time on the internet over the last 6 months or so, to receive pushback on this premise from people of Christian faith. Again, the dispute arises from my critique of Glenn Greenwald dressing up as a maid and licking a guy's feet, because that was a betrayal of parenthood, marriage, all of those things. It wasn't just a matter of like, this is two consenting adults, it's none of our business. No, I mean, there are children involved here. This is a total perversion of what marriage and parenthood are all about. The purpose of marriage is the proper production of children. That's how all of this came to be. And I understand why that would be controversial from a pure libertarian perspective, maybe even a perspective I used to hold. I continue to be surprised that I get pushback from a Christian perspective or a more traditional conservative perspective, because it seems uncontroversial to me in that way. But if I were to summarize the conservative opposition or the Christian opposition that I've received, it is usually something to the effect of the purpose of marriage is to serve God, to honor God, maybe with a little added detail. I don't view that as a distinction from or in opposition to my contention that children, the production of and the proper raising of children, is the purpose of marriage, insofar as the children are God's purpose. I don't see them as separable in that way. I don't think God's purpose is in box A and the children are in box B. I think they're one and the same, and marriage serves it. So that is how I would summarize the dispute. But I don't understand, and I guess I'm inviting more conversation on this, even though I thought I retired it. But for people that maybe can clarify why those boxes should be separate, that's what I don't understand. I'm not trying to dismiss that or mock it or something. I do not understand how those could possibly be separate boxes. They're the same box to me.
Well, I mean,
you have any hour-long comments on that?
You're just inviting more of the not all people, so
I guess,
or not only.
Yeah, and it's never been only.
Sure. So for some marriages, those boxes are not going to be as clearly defined because there might be, a fertility issue, or there just might be one of the parties just doesn't necessarily want to have kids. Yeah. That's fine. That's whatever. That shouldn't define all marriages, though. So the vast majority of marriages are still going to fall under the primary design, and that is
exactly
the production and raising of children and the propagation of society. It's what society is built on.
I don't understand how we can look at men and women and the union of them and look at the one defining feature that union has, the one thing it can do that no other can, and say, well, that's like a feature, but like really X, Y, and Z, like don't forget A, B, and C. That's the one thing that separates it. You can't reproduce that in any other way. To remove that from the union is to remove its entire definition, or at least the primary source of its definition. I don't understand how we can treat that as like merely a factor or merely a characteristic. It is the characteristic from a design perspective. Like just back off and look at this from like a reverse engineering perspective. Like, I see this thing, how was it designed to produce what effect? like P plus V equals baby, okay? Like, I was there in 6th grade health class. I can see it. Like, the design is clearly the combination of these things creates new life. And the creation of new life, to the extent that God has given it a value and a purpose, it has certain responsibilities and obligations tied to it. It's not just create new life and say, oh, see you later. No, that life has value. It has purpose. As the person who brought that life into being, you owe certain things to that life. That's what marriage is. Anyway.
Well, I mean, and to Joshua Boy's point, with every new covenant that God made in the Old Testament, with his people, with Israel, he tacked on the statement, now be fruitful and multiply.
Yeah, and that's why, like, for
it's a
the
direct
people,
command.
For the people that Vong included in the callers, I don't consider myself in opposition to you. And for people who have emailed or messaged in opposition, insofar, like, when you're telling me marriage exists to honor God, I agree. I just think that's the same thing as the children. That's all. I'm not disputing your premise that there is a God-honoring primary component of marriage. I just think we're talking about the same thing in different terms. That's all.
Yeah, I mean, mankind cannot continue to commune with God. So if the purpose is communion with God, as Vong stated, Well, it requires people. You can't. God can't commune with an empty planet. So,
yeah, I agree. Taker 610, end all taxation and make the government beg for money on GoFundMe. No one funds you. While Gene Wilder says, you lose, you get nothing. Good day, sir. I know the quote, but I don't have that button handy. On the topic of voluntary contributions in the government, I saw there was something the other, anytime someone's sick or they need help, they have a GoFundMe. There was some guy struggling, needed a GoFundMe to take care of him. And every time that happens, like, this dude raised like $1 million. It was my dad was telling me about him. It's like this guy who is 88 and still works at Walmart or something, and he needed help, and he raised like $1 million on GoFundMe. And the criticism from the left-wing perspective is always like, oh man, what kind of country requires a guy to go on GoFundMe? What the hell are you talking about? What kind of country? This guy got voluntary charitable contributions from strangers in a life-altering volume. Everybody willingly contributed and changed his life. How would it be better if the government pointed guns at everybody and then of that $1 million scooped like $500,000 for themselves and their stupid pensions and gave him half of it? Whenever people look at voluntary charity to help people and they scoff like that's a moral failure, it's like how upside down are we? How backward are we? Where you don't see that as a moral achievement. And you've been so propagandized to believe that only the government could possibly take care of people, that when people take care of people, you think it's bad.
Yeah, I mean, strangers taking care of each other, that's a negative thing. Like, these are all people who voluntarily raised their hand and said, I will be your neighbor.
Yeah.
To somebody for no gain to themselves other than, the concept of us all, helping each other out. Like, it's beautiful.
Taker
I don't understand
also,
how you can mock that.
They do, man. I saw another left-wing meme, speaking of things that are upside down. I know I'm way past time. I should just shut up. But hey, it's 3 hours, so who gives a shit? It was something about how, God, I wish I could remember the phrasing. It was, I've already butchered this. It was about how some sort of snarky leftist meme, friendly reminder that, here's how it was phrased. It was about capitalism. It was mocking the phrase, capitalism has lifted the most people out of poverty. Well, what do you think put people in poverty in the first place?
Life. Poverty is the default position of all human life.
That's what I'm like. You think that prosperity is the natural state? Go for a walk in the woods, you psycho. Find out how much prosperity is out there when nobody built anything. That sort of stuff is like, what world are we sharing? You think GoFundMe is bad. You think that the world was nothing but feasts and castles before evil capitalists came in and destroyed it.
Well, it's like I was explaining before. Like, one of the reasons why capitalism lifts people out of poverty is to actually increase the customer base. When the customer base starts slipping away, you don't have the capital going back to the top, and that's how the whole system collapses. And so the funds from the top will always find their way to the bottom in order to make sure that the bottom doesn't slide out.
I could Taker also says, I could be wrong, but on this, I think the prosecutor. Sorry, I could be wrong on this, but I think the prosecutor on the 2021 Atlanta spa shootings did say they would seek the death penalty, despite previously saying there is basically nothing that justifies it. I guarantee, I refuse to believe there's anybody who says the death penalty is legitimately never justified. I just don't believe. I fully grant your perspective that, like, in totality, it is a power of such significance that we shouldn't trust the government to have it. But the idea that there's no such thing, and I know that's not your position, I'm just saying the people who claim that, there's no way you actually believe that. I guarantee you I can show you someone so deranged and so evil that you are compelled to prescribe death as a just penalty.
That's a rough definition of justice at that point. If you're going to say that all of society has to suffer the wrath of the worst amongst us and there's nothing we can do about it, or we're not allowed to take it to or we're limited in any way in how we can dispense justice. That's
forgot about that case.
That was take on justice.
That was like the Asian spa where it was part of the Stop Asian Hate era. That one, I forgot about that one. Purpose of the age is when I had an infant and a 1-year-old, I would load my kids in the car seats and return to close. Sorry. Oh, here we go. This is on, I can't read because we're at 3 hours. This is on shopping carts. Purpose of the age is when I had an infant and a 1-year-old, I would load my kids in their car seats. And if the return was close, I'd return it. Else I'd shout, F you, Matt, and leave it. Protecting my kids is the purpose of marriage. Well, you got me there. You know, if it comes down to protecting your children, if there's a gang outside and you can't properly return the cart.
You take your children with you to return the cart. That way they see it happening, and then you walk your children from the cart return to your car.
Modeling behavior is key. You're right.
Exactly.
I actually heard a mom
hard.
make that argument sincerely. Well, I can't leave my kids in the car while I return the cart. That's dangerous for them. Come on, man. Like, if it's that, your kids shouldn't be at that store if their mere presence on the property is that dangerous. Are you kidding me? Why are you taking your kids to the store in the first place? If the act of shopping is an acceptable danger, but returning the cart is an unacceptable danger. But this mom was serious, and she was trying to justify her degenerate behavior.
No.
Anyway, a few more on Rumble here. We'll call it a night. Two Dogs, Mike D. Matt, my dad was from Minnesota. My mom is from Michigan. And although my siblings and I are from California, we spend a lot of time in both states. The reason the Midwest was chosen is because they are heavily German and or Scandinavian, Catholic and Lutheran. You know, exactly. That's my family's background. And those people are the nicest, most tolerant, and most naive people in the U.S. and are the only ones who would put up with such a huge demographic shift without speaking up. It honestly used to annoy me as a child how nice and naive they were, and the churches took advantage of this. So is it really, and I'm not even disputing that characterization, that could be totally right. I just wonder, like, is mere niceness the site selection? Is Minnesota nice the actual answer? Or is there something, I wonder, is there something more political about it than just that? But even in your point, it's kind of political insofar as who's the most likely to put up with this bullshit to a very large degree? Probably Minnesota nice people will, that passive aggression. They'll sit there and they'll be polite about it, but man, will they stew. And
yeah, you betcha.
And eventually they'll get so mad they'll do absolutely nothing about it.
Don't you know?
Yeah. Anyway. All right. Thank you for the insight, Two Dogs. Appreciate it. Okay. I think we are all set. Anything else you want to discuss before we're out of here?
No, I think I'm good.
All right. Well, we will call it there. Appreciate everybody's contribution to the show this evening. Callers, live chatters, super chatters, emailers, voicemail leavers, all you people. Appreciate you. Thank you for your contribution to the show. If you're listening later on demand, thank you as well for supporting the show. Skulldugger, hey man, thank you for sitting in for a 3-hour plus tour. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was a blast.
Thanks to producer Tim for his help as always. MattChristiansenmedia.com. Matt is Doc A. See you on Sunday.